Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у щах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Ті, хто води всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів. Робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, та вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить. Хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар? Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ. Тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The lease army sends its regards.
Русский военный корабль. Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.
Наші
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 778 of the news. And it's good to see you all once again. And Ukraine is lashing out at Russia yet again. And welcome back.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine, as we've gotten major news overnight that the Ukrainians and the Russians have practically entered a long-range air attack slugfest, with the Ukrainians knocking out major factories within the city of Kursk, and the Russians attempting and successfully knocking out Ukraine's largest thermal power plant within the area of Kyiv. There is major news that has been going on over the past 24 hours, especially in between Russia and Ukraine, and we've also been able to hear that apparently the war with Iran is going to happen another day. They ran away, but we'll be covering that a little bit tonight. Largely, we'll just be giving a bit of a conclusion, at least as we're hearing it at the moment, on how that's going. Luckily, it sounds as though the Iranians are starting to back off out of fear of the United States, but we'll have to make sure to give a little bit of extra detail, and we have a lot of detail on our Twitter. The link is in the description below. You can go over there and see all of the reposts that we put up of all of the news as it developed today. But we have a load of news today, certainly, for the Ukraine war segment. And a lot has happened, especially for the Russian Federation, particularly within the major strike that happened in the city of Kursk. Kursk is a major city within the Russian Federation, and not only that, it is a hero city, or what they would call a Herom Gorod, or Gorod Herom, which means hero city. A hero city in the Soviet Union was a city that distinguished itself with battle honors due to a major battle being fought near the area, or something else along that nature. Actually several cities are hero cities of the Soviet Union and still in the modern-day Russian Federation, including former Stalingrad, now Volgograd, and also Kursk as well, just to make sure that we keep the list incredibly short tonight. Nevertheless, Kursk did continue to be used as a major city after the end of World War II, and even to this present day, there is a lot of heavy industry that is based out of the city of Kursk, which continues to try and feed the Russian war machine up to this day. We were able to hear that either one of two targets was hit tonight in Kursk. One of the targets was possibly a coal mine within the area or some kind of a coal processing facility, which may have been hit, leading to coal dust catching on fire, and then the coal piles themselves catching on fire, which will most likely blaze out of control for a very good while. The other answer that I've heard is that it's some kind of an iron processing facility, still incredibly important and incredibly crucial to the Russian war effort, as iron is really the most vital product to produce steel. And it appears that one or the other has been knocked out within Kursk. The story still has not cleared up yet at the moment, but we were able to see the aftermath of the major hit inside of Kursk, which is right here. Look at that. It's like right within the first second, we got to see the rising of the light over the city of Kursk. Oh.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty strong fire right there.
Gotta make sure to blur it out, too. You don't want to give away the location, you know?
Blit. So you do not want to give away the location of that. Look at that, Matthew. They went, oh, blit. It's just bad. Look, it like went from nothing, Matthew, to like spreading out across the entire facility immediately.
I'm glad they blurred it out, too, because I would never have known where this would have happened without the blur.
I would have never have known either, Matthew. Who the hell knows where this would have happened? It did happen within the city of Kursk, but we have no idea where it happened. Beyond that, it was somewhere inside of the city of Kursk, but it is nice to see that another Ukrainian drone attack led to some successful and severe damage that will hopefully be once again hurting the Russian war industry as far as it's been going. Ukrainian drone attacks beyond that were very sparsely reported overnight. We weren't able to hear of many of them rather than the one that happened on Kursk right there in that clip. But once again, it is showing that the Ukrainians are using their drones to the best of their abilities to try and knock out major Russian war industry before it can be used against the Ukrainians any farther. The Russians are getting very desperate at this point in the war, and we have seen that their strikes are starting to get a lot more brazen in their attacks, or what their targets really are, because they're starting to hit things that we've never seen them hitting before in the war. And I have to put this out on the table to let y'all understand the domestic side of things before I talk about what the Russians have done inside of Ukraine today that is showing why they're getting so desperate. One, the Russian army has been involved in a war for over 2 years at this point, and has suffered extreme casualties, over 450,000 wounded and killed, and not only that, thousands, tens of thousands of armored equipment pieces and armor pieces have been destroyed so far in the course of the conflict, which is a major drawback for Russian force projection into future decades, already a serious blow to the Russian Federation. Not only that, but the heavy economic sanctions that have been put on Russia have really affected the Russian economy incredibly, and we have seen that the ruble has consistently been devaluing greater and greater against the dollar. And let me see if I can get right here a comparison of the ruble to the dollar. And let me see here. Let me actually flip this around to USD to ruble so that way we can get the best comparison here. And you can see right here that the ruble has, since the beginning of the war, massively decreased in its value. Inflation has been skyrocketing inside the Russian Federation. Here is the comparison from the beginning of the war in Ukraine in 2014 right here, where we saw that the ruble went from being around 30 rubles to the dollar, meaning that a ruble was worth 3 cents, to now the ruble is worth around 1 penny. And it's been staying there incredibly for an incredibly long time. It is showing that the Russian economy has been having some incredibly bad issues as far as the economics are concerned. And not only that, we also have to remember that not only are the sanctions heavily hurting the Russian economy, it's also making sure the Russians are not able to export one of their most viable products, which is oil and gas products. We've not only seen that they're not exporting oil and gas products, but now the Russian economy itself, internally, is not able to even produce enough refined fuel products for the Russian economy to consume, leading the Russian government to having to take on a massive amount of additional costs with Kazakhstan to order an additional 100,000 tons of gasoline products, so that way they can try and keep the Russian economy running for just a little while longer, showing that the gas prices inside of Russia are continuing to skyrocket. Not only that, but the Russians are also running incredibly short of money, not only because of these massive spending bills that they're having to pass, for example, trying to buy large amounts of Kazakhstani oil and refined fuel products, but also just trying to keep the country running. Critical infrastructure collapses are beginning to happen all throughout the Russian Federation, like the Ural Dam collapse down near the area of Orsk, and also the major highway bridges that have also been collapsing as well, paired with other Russian infrastructure failures due to partisan attacks, like attacks on railway infrastructure, which have been greatly decreasing the efficiency of Russian railroads. The blood of the Russian economy really runs through the rails of Russia. Everything is going very badly for the Russians on a domestic economical end, and that kind of an end can actually lead to the end of a war. Historically, in World War I, that's what led to the German Empire eventually collapsing in World War I and finally having to bow out of the war, is the massive unsustained pressure that they were getting on their economy. The dwindling food resources as well as their dwindling reserves of currency led them to have to go into negotiations with the Allies and eventually sign the Treaty of Versailles. That is a very good historical precedent going off the First World War to show that the economy itself and the domestic pressures at home can lead to the end of wars abroad, like the Russian war in Ukraine at the moment. And it appears that the Russians understand that time is certainly beginning to tick, and very quickly for the Russian government, and they are trying to find a way to make the Ukrainian clock tick faster than the Russian one. This has led to a massive Russian air barrage to occur overnight, which the Ukrainians attempted to successfully shoot down and was able to shoot down a large amount of the incoming rockets and missiles. However, there was an unfortunate occurrence to be had. We were able to get the air defense report, which showed a high level of success. 16 X-101s and X-55 missiles, or 555 missiles were shot down. 39 Shahed 136s were shot down, and 2 X-59s were also shot down as well. Unfortunately, the Ukrainians were not able to stop one of the most important missiles that was fired in this missile attack, which was the one that was directed towards the thermal power plant in the outskirts of Kyiv. A major thermal power plant was hit. It's actually one of the largest ones inside of Ukraine. And let me make sure to go and get y'all the name of this thermal power plant, because sadly I'm not able to pronounce it, so I might need to make sure to pull it up so that way I can try and just show y'all the thermal power plant. And it's the, let me see if I can say it, the Tripilska plant. The Tripilska plant is the largest one in Ukraine, and it's also the largest one as far as power production goes. This single power plant on its own can actually provide enough electricity to power the entire city of Kyiv. That is an impressively high amount, considering that Kyiv is the largest city inside of Ukraine. But let me make sure, once again, to try and type in the name here so we can geolocate this. The Tripilska power plant in Kyiv. So let's see where this is. And I believe that is not the power plant. And let me go see if I can type in that is not Tripilska. We need the Tripilska power plant. Let me see if I can find it here. And so this is actually the Tripilska power plant right here. And here's some pictures of the power plant to show you all the absolute scale of the thing. It was an incredibly large power plant just to the south of Kyiv, and once again creating enough electricity on its own to supply the entire city with all of its electrical requirements. The hit of this thermal power plant is once again beginning to lead us to the idea that the Russians are trying to force the Ukrainians out of this war by most likely destroying critical energy infrastructure that keeps major parts of Ukraine running, and Kyiv being one of the most important. Let me show you the video we got really quickly of the power plant after it had been hit and the fire began to consume most of the structure. And here is the power plant on fire just to the south of Kyiv.
That's a pretty big fire, too. It looks like it's across pretty much the entire plant.
It does look like it's almost across the entirety of the plant. A very serious hit, and once again knocking out one of the largest thermal power plants inside of Ukraine. This is a serious ordeal. I can't really underplay this one tonight. This is an incredibly serious ordeal for Ukrainian thermal power plants, and not only that, power plants in general to be hit, because while electrical substations are difficult to repair, repairing power plants at this scale of damage is next to impossible unless it takes years to try and repair them and rebuild them. This is a very serious ordeal and is once again showing us that the Russians are getting incredibly desperate at this point in the war, and they are directly attacking civil infrastructure like these power plants in hopes that this will force the Ukrainian government to its knees and force them into the negotiating table, or force them out of the war where the Russians can finally declare some sort of a victory in the conflict. This kind of desperation is showing us, because it's never before seen desperation by the Russians over the 2 years of war that's been going on, that they have an internal clock that is ticking inside of Russia, where if they do not act fast and even brutally like we're seeing right now, they may be forced to get to the negotiating table first before Ukraine. And now they're trying to force that issue with the Ukrainians, where the Ukrainians are the ones having to come and negotiate instead of the Russians. So now we have a pretty good idea that we are getting into the late phase of the war by these kinds of attacks, both by Ukraine and by Russia. Both of them are going at each other's throats at this point. The Ukrainians are going for the Russians' throats by knocking out their oil refining and oil industry altogether. And now the Russians are trying to go for the Ukrainians' throats by knocking out their power grid almost completely from the ground up. This is a very serious ordeal, and not only that, there is a way that Ukraine could possibly avoid the severity of this damage that we're seeing right now, which is to have more air defense systems. We have been hearing that the Ukrainians are wanting to buy a whopping 7 Patriot systems, valued at around $7 billion for all systems included, to be brought into Ukraine so that way they can try and defend the skies over Ukraine a lot more successfully than they are right now. Of course, that isn't going to be happening anytime soon, but we have heard that the United States may provide around $150 million roughly in Hawk missile defense systems. And also, out of Warsaw today, we were able to hear that the Polish president Andrzej Duda is now offering older Soviet air defense systems in larger numbers that the Polish military has been retiring, so that way they can be sent to Ukraine and try and defend Ukraine's skies better. At this point in the war...
Also, by the way, I heard somewhere, I think it was earlier today, that the people that actually make the Patriot weapon systems themselves said they could only make, I think it was like 1 per year or something like that. Is that true, according to what we know?
From what I know, it is close to being true. Patriots require a large amount of time to produce, and not only that, the factory that they have usually only starts to ramp up production when there's a large contract to be fulfilled. So at the moment, if the Ukrainians weren't wanting to pay an incredibly large amount for these systems, so that way this company can hire the amount of workers that they would need to try and build these systems in a shorter amount of time, it would be next to impossible for them to produce more than a year. They might be able to produce 1.25 per year if they were really trying to push it right now, but based off of their current logistical limitations, they'd only be able to make about 1 per year, meaning that right now, it would take about 7 years off of the current budget that Ukraine has probably proposed to the company that makes the Patriots for them to be able to make all 7 of them. Also,
that's just wild to me. If it's truly just 1 per year, which I'm not sure if that's actually true or not. Like, I'd really have to hear that from the company directly. I'm not sure where that statement came from. I just saw it on Twitter earlier. But only 1 Patriot per year, that's kind of wild. And also on top of that's also going to lower the odds of the United States approving or even sending a Patriot, because if it's really that low, that means they really are hard to replace. And we're probably not going to be willing to give too many more of those up.
And I would have to say that's probably true. But the thing is with military production is that it's a very, very tricky thing to actually iron down the exact specifics, because right now it's one per year based off of Raytheon's abilities to produce the systems. But there is a way to speed it up. They could expand their facilities that produce Patriots. They could also hire more workers and employees that are working on their Patriot division inside of Raytheon, including the production and also quality control and assurances. And so it is most likely that if they were to spend more money, Raytheon could then go and hire more workers, more employees, and also expand facilities, so that way they could start to build Patriots at a much faster pace. That's most likely what they're talking about at the moment, because the Ukrainians probably don't have a lot of money that they could offer Raytheon to be able to produce this. So Raytheon would probably produce them at their current output, which is around roughly 1 per year or so. But let me make sure that we can get an exact number on that, because 1 per year does sound incredibly long. How long does it take to make a Patriot? Sam. Well, let's see here. How much does the Patriot system cost? 1.1 billion. Who makes the Patriot Raytheon? How long does it take? How many missile systems? So let's see. The U.S. Army has 15 Patriot battalions. Let's see here.
I see some people in the chat saying that they make 12 per year. Some people are saying it's like 1 per month. That seems like maybe that'd be more realistic, like 1 per month. Because to take an entire year to build one weapon system, that seems a little bit outrageous to me. So it might have been maybe a Twitter myth or something running around. The OSINT people got messed up or confused or something with it. But I would be curious to know from Raytheon how many they actually could make.
You know, we might actually want to do a little bit of investigative journalism of our own to try and see if we could track down an answer from Raytheon and get an idea of how many of those systems they might be able to produce. But nevertheless, I see a lot of people talking about the EU has 100 of them combined, and that is true. That number is in fact accurate. So there's no way they could have produced 1 per year, because that means that they wouldn't have even been able to equip the United States with all the Patriots it has going off of its current production rates per year. It means that Raytheon would have only been able to produce around 25 to 30 of them by this time in history. So highly unlikely that they're only able to produce 1 per year. They're probably able to produce 1 per month. That's probably a lot more accurate. But they can, of course, like I was saying earlier, speed up even that if they were able to expand their facilities and hire more workers and employees. But that, of course, increase the cost of the systems for Ukraine. And that also means that they would have to probably buy a larger number of them to try and cut down on the overall cost per unit. But moving on from that, we do get to hear that Poland is offering to provide Soviet-made air defenses that can be sent to Ukraine. We don't really know exactly what the Polish are offering, and I've been trying to find before the stream what this could possibly be, because I don't really think they have a lot in terms of Soviet air defense equipment that's even in their inventory currently or even close to being retired. But let me make sure to get a double check here, and let me go through Polish military equipment and see. And so let's see here. They have 64 OSAs in 20 Kubes. That's all they have from Soviet vintage as far as the air defense goes. They also have hundreds of Gush guns, and also they have some technicals with Gush guns on them as well, and an incredibly small number of Shilkas. There's only about 20 of them in service. So as far as Soviet air defense goes, they actually have a fairly limited number of it. They have a far larger number, from what we can tell, of Western air defense systems, just in the Poprid and also the Malor Naru, which is going to be in service incredibly soon right now. So going off of that, it seems as though they probably don't have a lot to offer, but still, something is better than nothing. That is always the going phrase in this war, and hopefully we'll be able to see that the Ukrainians are able to get something rather than nothing from the Poles. Moving on from that, I want to quickly take us, before we get on into the direct Ukraine war news, and also what's been happening far off in Russia, I do want to give you all a quick little recap about the Middle East and why we're not even covering this segment tonight. From what we've told, from what we've seen, Iran has chickened out. We believe that the Iranians have chickened out because of the United States threats to start conducting conventional strikes against the Islamic Republic of Iran if they were to attack Israel. And so now Iran is saying that they're not going to attack Israel directly. They're going to attack them in a way of their choosing, at a time of their choosing, in a very specific way, so that way they don't escalate things in the region. That's exactly what Iran said today, and it appears that they are a part of the massive bluff. I mean, this is the biggest bluff that I've ever seen the Iranians do, because they actually had everyone believing in the world, including us, that an attack was going to be imminent inside of the Middle East on Israel. And now we see that the Iranians are not even probably going to be getting close to that, at least from their official statements. And a lot of people have been throwing in some comments on this, because this is a very anticlimactic end to the story, but nevertheless, it is probably the best ending to the story we can get right now. Because, of course, it was either that or it was going to be a full-on conventional war in the Middle East with all untold amount of damage and untold amounts of death. So, luckily, it did sort of end this way. Of course, it's not over yet. The Iranians could launch a surprise attack tomorrow, but for now, it looks like the Iranians are starting to step down on the official level. And a lot of people have been talking, loads of people have been talking about this tonight, and some people are saying that that this is Iran in the big league of bluffs, the biggest of leagues of bluffs. This might actually go down in the books. Some people are saying that Iran may actually conduct a sudden surprise attack now, hopefully wanting to take people off guard. But a lot of people have had loads of different opinions about what the Iranians actually have up their sleeve, if they have anything up their sleeve at all anymore, rather than maybe some bad odor. But beyond that, Matthew, what do you think about this? Do you think that the Iranians are bluffing big league, or do you think that they're actually going to try and launch a surprise attack and they're just trying to get everyone's guard down for it?
All right, and we asked everybody in the audience, we said, what are your thoughts about U.S. intel saying that Iran is abruptly calling off their major attack yesterday and that they're rescheduling the major escalation for the next 48 hours? They had something come up and they couldn't pull it off then, apparently. But 53% said Iran is bluffing bigly. 26% said Iran is going to strike suddenly, and 11% said it's really confusing and I need some more info. And for me personally, I hear what the enforcer's saying, but I wouldn't write this off completely just yet. I think Iran is playing some sort of game here where they're going to sort of get Israel to basically get a little bit off guard, and then they might try to launch some attack. Now, we have heard Iran saying in the back channels that whatever attack they launch on Israel, they're going to make a point to avoid striking anywhere near U.S. bases or U.S. soldiers, or at least that's what they're saying. And they're also going to strike in a way that's designed to basically prevent regional war from breaking out. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to pull that off, because an attack on Israel is going to be responded to by Israel in a very severe way. So I'm not going to say that Iran is bluffing just yet. It seems like they are definitely making fools out of themselves by playing this little pity-pat game they're playing right here. But I think they might decide to strike suddenly. It seems like the U.S. still believes that as well, and that's what I'm going to go with. So I'm with the 26%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say they're probably actually backing off. I would believe that they are, because the Iranians remember what happened to them in Operation Praying Mantis back in the day, back in the 80s. And then, the Iranians said, Matthew, we are going to kill everyone, everywhere. And then America said, no, you're not. And then Iran said, we'll kill you too. And then we said, say what? And then they said, please don't hurt me, Habibi. Like they said, please don't hurt me.
Now, when this fella shows up right here, it does change their minds just a little bit, and that fella is there now. So that could have maybe caused them to have a sudden incident to come up to cause a rescheduling of the war.
Not just the Dwight D. Eisenhower, but the Gerald R. Ford as well, the first of the Ford class of carriers. We also know that an LHD task force is in the area as well. So there is a large amount of available air power that the United States could send into Iran. Really more than the Iranians actually have to muster. And let me make sure that I have that correct. Iran Air Force equipment. And let's go see what kind of combat aircraft they have. So, scroll down and we got the list here. Alright, so, remember, a single Nimitz-class aircraft carrier, just the Dwight D. Eisenhower alone, carries 90 fixed-wing aircraft and helicopters combined. So, if we do some quick math, and I'm going to do this on stream to make sure that we show this to all of y'all. Alright, so the Islamic Republic of Iran Air Force, the IRAAF, has 19 MiG-29s, 23. Well, actually, no, that's not really combat aircraft. That's more so of like a bomber, a tactical bomber. So we're not going to include that. So 17 J-7s. They then have 31 F-5s. Oh, wait a minute, I multiplied those first two numbers. Oh, dang. It got me like 300. I was like, no. I was like, wait a minute, no. But let's see. 17 plus 31, and then they have the Hesse-Sek, which is they have 6 of them, and then they have this thing, which is another modification of the F5, and they have 3 of those, and then they have 6 of these, and then they have 63 F4 Phantoms. Those are pretty much sacrificial lambs at this point in time. And then 41 F-14s, but we really think that only about 14 of those are left operational, but we'll count all 41 of them just for the hell of it. And then also 12 F-1s, Mirage F-1s from France. So in total, the Iranians have 198 aircraft at their disposal that could actually end up trying to defend their skies or intercept these American aircraft. And we also have to remember, really all of them are vintage. None of these are modern aircraft. They do have 24 Su-35s on order, which would be their only modern aircraft in their inventory that would kind of go toe-to-toe with the Gen 4 aircrafts of the West, like the FA-18, the F-15, the F-16, and so on. But the reality is that if you ever put an F-7 especially, or an F-4 Phantom into a dog, or an F-5, or any other aircraft like the Hessa aircraft that are all variations of the F-5, they're going to get turned into red stains on the pavement going up against an F-18. There's no way for them to really deal with the FA-18 because the FA-18 is a lot more advanced, is able to carry a lot more advanced weaponry. The F-5 only has, and this is a huge thing in modern conflicts, it only has 2 hard points that can actually mount air-to-air missiles. And the F-5 cannot mount, from what I understand, and let me make sure that I'm correct with this, radar-guided missiles. And that is a very big thing. An aircraft really has to be carrying a radar-guided missile to be effective in the modern day and age. So let's see if it can. So armaments, hard points. It has 7, but 2 of them can only 2 of them can launch air-to-air missiles. At least the ones that the Iranians have is they're like F-5Cs or some primitive garbage like that. And so let's see here, rockets, missiles. So yes, this is absolutely correct. It may be able to carry some AMRAAMs, but they do not have AMRAAMs. AMRAAMs came around after the Islamic Republic formed. So that means that they only have AIM-9 Sidewinders, which are dogfighting missiles that you use within about 3 miles of your target to be able to try and shoot down American jets with. On the comparison, on the flip side, the United States FA-18 has AMRAAMs, and really quickly, not to scroll down this whole list again and give everyone nausea doing that, but getting back down here again and clicking on the AMRAAM to give you all an idea of its range versus the AIM-9, the AMRAAM's range is a nice, good, whopping 86 nautical miles. So the FA-18s would be able to shoot down most Iranian aircraft before they were able to even engage American aircraft at all. Of course, the Iranians could try and do some tricks with their aircraft, either flying incredibly low to the ground or through the mountain valleys to try and avoid American radar, and then be guided into their targets by Iranian radar installations on the ground. But the chances of them being coordinated enough to do something like that are pretty slim. It took a lot for the Iraqis to even try and do that in the Gulf War, and it ended up going poorly for them even then with the MiG-25s that they were using back in the day. So going off of that, we would have to believe that while the Iranians outnumber the aircraft on the Dwight D. Eisenhower almost 2-to-1, all of those aircraft are so antiquated and using such antiquated technologies, missiles, and weapons on them that they probably would not pose that big of an issue for a Dwight D. Eisenhower aircraft carrier, or really a Nimitz-class supercarrier, to pretty much just pick off the entire Iranian Air Force from miles away before the Iranians could even engage them. And so, going off of that, I think we're good, and I think that they're probably scared just because of the fact that the carrier group is in the area. Well, 2 carrier groups are in the area. Oh, and I forgot that, Matthew. We have to go and factor in the Gerald R. Ford as well. So let me go get the Gerald R. Ford, because there's actually 2 carrier groups in the area that could operate against them. And so let me get the aircraft carrier up here, and then let's make sure that its number of aircraft is also on up there. So the Gerald R. Ford's numbers are probably not public because it says 75 plus, but the reality is that the Gerald R. Ford is larger than the Nimitz class, and not only that, it's also carrying F-35 Lightnings. So going off of that, we probably have to assume that it's carrying an incredibly large number of aircraft, probably as many as the Dwight D. Eisenhower, and putting these 2 aircraft carriers together, you actually have the entire combat air arm of the Iranian Air Force on 2 ships at sea. So going off of that, it's actually a one-on-one, par-to-par fight. And not only that, then throwing in F-35s into the picture, the Iranians literally stand no chance, both in the air-ground defense role and in the air defense role from their aircraft. The F-4 Phantom would be like a toddler being smacked by a grown stepdad who's drunk and just came home and got them being his wife, as far as the confrontation would go in between the two. It would be absolutely brutal. It would truly be a slaughter. There would be no way for an F-4 Phantom to try and even go up against an F-35, because it's too antiquated, the equipment's too vintage. The F-35 on top of that is also stealth, and so if the F-4 Phantom even has any radar-guided missiles from Iran, they wouldn't even be able to lock on to the F-35 and be able to fire off the missile, meaning that that thing is a dead duck as soon as it gets into the air. So going off of that, I would have to say, I think we got them. I think we got them. I think they're scared, and that's why they're promising that they're not going to do anything to the United States, because they don't really want the heat. And that's not trying to make it sound like some kind of a street thug thing. They really just don't want the heat, in all seriousness. But with that, I hope we were able to address that well. And I hope that gives y'all a good picture of why Iran fears America. But at the same time, I think it's kind of interesting how quickly they backed off. And I think that's leading me to believe that they are certainly getting close to completing a nuclear weapons development program. And they don't want anything to happen before that nuclear weapon is completed. That may also be the reason why they're making sure to keep America at least somewhat at peace. So that way they'll hope that the Israelis are not doing that much to them in turn. But with that, a lot of people are also talking about the fact that the U.S. says it will respond if Iran attacks Israel, and a lot of people are talking about would they, would the U.S. Attack for Israel? I had to make sure to get that correct, the wording there. But would they attack on behalf of Israel if Israel was attacked, even if U.S. forces in the area weren't hit? What would the U.S. do in response? And what are a lot of y'all thinking? And Matthew, what are you thinking about it too?
All right, so we asked the audience. The U.S. says it will respond if Iran attacks Israel. The major U.S. aircraft carrier is in the area, of course. We just went over that. And what is everyone's thoughts? And at 61% said the U.S. would actually attack for Israel. And at 27% said the U.S. is bluffing, trying to deter Iran. And honestly speaking, I think the U.S. aircraft carriers are there for simply deterrence. I don't think that the U.S. would immediately launch a major war against Iran, which is the way it was made to sound when we basically responded to Iran's threats. We basically said we're going to go to war for Israel pretty much immediately if Iran attacks Israel. So I don't think that we would actually do that right off the bat. We might do it later on down the road, but I don't think that's going to be the first line of defense if they did launch that attack. So I pretty much think it's a bluff. I think it's a smart bluff because it's going to obviously sway Iran one way or the other by seeing our large aircraft carriers out there in the sea. And that's going to scare pretty much anybody in their right mind. And we'll find out soon if Iran is really in their right mind. But Enforcer, what say you?
So really quickly, I'm trying to find some information here about another incident that we had with Iran where we ended up attacking them. Let's see. Let's see here. Let's see. Here's this Gary. Let's see. The frigate was spotted. Here's Joseph Strauss. Aftermath. Let's see here. Where in the world is the part where the frigate got hit? 1 second. Sorry, y'all. I'm having to try and read here and catch up on something to make sure that we get the time window correct. Let's see here. It's marked. Let me just type this in. When was the Samuel Roberts stricken by a mine? So the Samuel, so to give you all a little bit of a time comparison here, back in the day, back in 1988, which isn't that long ago, that's just right before the Gulf War, the Iranians were getting incredibly hostile within the territory of the Persian Gulf, and ended up attacking commercial shipping back then. Because of that, we sent our own naval assets into the area, and an Iranian mine ended up being placed in the Strait of Hormuz, and a frigate called the Samuel L. Roberts ended up striking that mine on the 14th of April, which caused serious damage and forced the Samuel L. Roberts to limp to the nearest port to try and effect emergency repairs and then send it back to the States for a proper full refit and repair. Then, just 4 days after that happened, we then launched Operation Praying Mantis, which led to the United States destroying half of the Iranian Navy within a half hour. So, going off of that, we can see that an immediate response most likely would not happen, because there would probably be a planning phase and before the phase of execution, which would probably take several days for the United States to really figure out. So for those first few days after something would happen, it would probably look fairly quiet, a lot like it did back before Operation Praying Mantis. But once the operation does go underway, it most likely would just occur about 4 days later and will probably be a pretty coordinated and a fairly effective air campaign that would happen. That's a pretty interesting little occurrence that happened here. A lot of people don't talk about it, but it did end up quite successfully for the Americans. We ended up sinking one Iranian frigate, one gunboat, 3 speedboats, another frigate was crippled, 2 platforms were destroyed, and 1 fighter was damaged. 56 Iranian sailors were killed and 5 ships were sunk. For America's 2 sailors being killed on the Samuel L. Roberts and 1 helicopter crashing because of reasons. We just had to have one crash so that way there was a casualty report. But beyond that, that is a fairly good historical premise for what would happen now. And I believe that this is a little bit of a different scenario as well, because the Iranian mine did blow up directly on the bottom of the Samuel L. Roberts hull, I believe towards the stern. And so it is a fairly different situation we're talking about here, because that was pretty much a direct attack on an American vessel versus what we're talking about with the current situation, an Iranian attack on Israel, with America being an uninvolved party for the most part, not being attacked. I still believe that they probably would attack on Israel's side, because we usually like to show a strong force in the region, especially against countries that are not in our good graces, is the best way to explain it. So with that, I hope that does address that well, at least in my opinion. And with that, it's time for us to move on out of the Middle East, because there's just not really a lot of news there. And oh, that bot was throwing in emojis, man. They're getting a little advanced here. But moving on from that and on up into Ukraine again, it's time for us to move on all the way out into Chelyabinsk, where one of the first nuclear disasters in the world happened back in the 50s. A very interesting story there. If y'all haven't heard about it, pull it up and read it. It's actually pretty interesting. But anyways, we got to see the Russians are trying to get more soldiers out of the migrants. They're trying to put migrants into the Russian army. The Russian police said, hey, y'all migrated into Russia. How about you migrated to the Russian army, huh? You know, the good money, good deals, you know?
They said, do we get a free Dodge Charger, блядь?
You get everything you want, блядь. Everything. Just sign the contract here, and you will have all you can wish for.
These guys are like, we had gold, блядь.
Может стать гражданином Российской Федерации, заключив контракт с Министерством обороны Российской Федерации для прохождения военной службы. Вот. Понятно?
And we can see it.
Man, these guys are getting suckered pretty damn bad. Like, they're like leading them on with all this like free Russian citizenship, and they're really desperate to want that in the first place. And they're all just giggling and laughing like, we really did it now. We got some gold now. And little they know they're about to be marched to their death pretty much.
Man, you know what this Russian is saying after this video ended? He said, here in Russia, there are so many benefits to join the Russian army. You get to pick the job you want based off of your score and the Army Standard Vocational Aptitude Test. Not only that, but you also get to get a massive sign-on bonus for some of your jobs. Imagine hundreds of thousands of rubles going back to your habibi back home, blade. And also, on top of it, you get to do what you want when you want. There are no hours in the army. You just get your job done. It's like a contract job. Very easy, blade. Make sure to sign the contract on the paper, and then we will make sure to put you on into war. But that's probably what the guy's saying, man. He's like going through the whole spiel. But anyways, moving on from this clip, we can see that the Russians are still trying to get recruits from anywhere they possibly can, including the migrants. But moving on from that, and on into Ukraine, it is now time for us to talk about the major news of what's been happening in the location unknowns. We got to see today how the Ukrainians have been training for anti-drone warfare. And I gotta tell y'all, the music do be hitting. We can see the Ukrainian drone flying around. And we can see here, they're showing a cool shot of the instructors, as we can now see this machine gun here, laying it low. They're trying to shoot at the flag that the drone is pulling along, trying to shoot it off the drone or shoot down the drone, so that way they can train these guys on how to conduct anti-drone air gunnery as best as they can. That guy was shooting a little high. But we can see them there then reloading the belt. That is 7.62x54R, the oldest cartridge in continuous service with armed forces around the world. introduced into Russian imperial service back in 1891 and still used today by many former Soviet republics, many former Warsaw Pact nations, and also the Russians themselves. But the Ukrainians can be seen here using it in the PKP machine gun. But that's the end of the clip, and just showing them doing a little bit of that training that will really help them out in defending the skies of Ukraine onto the near future. Moving on from that, we also got to see how the Ukrainians are training their sapper dogs. And I got to tell you, Matty, I'm one sap for the sapper dogs. They're very cute. Check it out. We see them showing the dog running through, sniffing the boxes, and finding the one. And look at that. It's a claymore. It's a little Easter treat. Look at that. Isn't that nice?
Also, what happened to Patron, by the way? Like, where'd that dog go?
Oh, he went on retirement. He's pretty much retired at this point.
Damn, I hate that. I love that dog.
Man, I'll tell you what, man. You're right. It was a sweet dog. Precious dog. We see it sniffing around this Lada, and it got a whole lot of nothing. Now we can see it smelling around this other ugly car, and it found a bomb. We can now see them giving the dog a treat. They looks like it bit off the handler's hand. No, it didn't, actually, but that thing came in fast. We now see them playing with the Dougie. The Dougie did a good job. We see them flinging the Dougie around. And
to loosen up the neck on that doggy a little bit. He could just smell it a little better.
Loosen up those spinal discs. maybe he'll be a little more flexible. But moving on from that and into our next clip, we were also able to see a Ukrainian crab firing at the Russians. We haven't seen a crab in action for a while. And I got to tell y'all, those Ukrainians got them crabs. But here's the clip. Man, they got that lo-fi funk up in here. And we see them loading the beasts. We see them getting the next shell ready. Man, it's just so nice to have all this automation in this crab. And they're now loading the powder charge right there. Getting ready to fire. And in any second now, by the bush, the shell fires, and now they're going to get ready to load the next round. But that's the end of that little clip right there, but it's really neat overall to see these Ukrainian soldiers out there on the front lines with their crab and their crabs and firing those shells so that way they can help to spread crabs around, because everyone loves a little bit of the crab. But moving on from that, it's time for us to move on into our last bit of Location Unknown news, which is the Russian casualty report.
Oh! 6 Bobcats. My goodness, man. 6 Bobcats today. I'm telling you what, that's very juicy. Bigly.
Man, they getting jiggy with it. As Matthew knocks a bot called Ziggy out of the live chat. Aw, man. I be getting that. I be getting a little Ziggy for the glizzy. but anyway.
Oh, no.
Moving on from that. We got to see that 6 Bobcat skid steers were destroyed over the past 24 hours. Can we get an LSA in the chat for the Bobcats? Moving on from that, we also got to see 810 Russian soldiers wounded and killed over the past 24 hours, along with 12 armored personnel carriers knocked out, 50 supply trucks destroyed, 5 main battle tanks destroyed, 48 artillery systems knocked out, along with 34 drones, 2 cruise missiles, and 1 anti-aircraft warfare system. Overall, it was a really good day. I mean, it was impressive. And then we even got, because the numbers were so good, that typical Russian bot that always shows up in the comments section that goes, "Where are the Ukrainian losses?" Like, they haven't been doing it the same way for 778 days now. It's almost like this
Also, it's like the bots can't read either. It says Russia's losses. It doesn't say Ukraine's losses. That's the title. Russia's losses. I don't see Ukraine here.
It's like if you want Ukraine's losses, maybe, I don't know, you go to the front line and fight yourself or something. Maybe you'll find out then, or maybe you won't. Maybe you'll become a part of their loss figures for the Russians. Who knows? Who really knows? But beyond that, the loss numbers were incredibly good, and the bots do be seething. Moving on from that, however, now the Location Unknowns, it's now time for us to get on into that frontline combat footage, and we have a lot of it today. Loads of it, as a matter of fact. Incredibly increasing higher and higher loads of war footage. Just massive amounts. Unbelievable amounts. But before we get into that, we have to make sure to talk about some questions that have been thrown in, because we've been getting some incredibly juicy questions tonight. And so, Matthew, what do we got?
All right, and first up, we have a very generous $50 donation in Super Chat from Old Warrior, the channel legend, by the way. Thank you very much, Old Warrior, for that support and helping to keep the Enforcer channel running strong. He says, didn't Kazakhstan just throw a bunch of Russians out, and will they up the price of oil to Russia as a result?
Interesting question, Old Warrior. And from what I understand, and thank you for the massive support, by the way, and helping this channel to keep on running. From what I understand, Kazakh-Russian relations are actually somewhat poor. It doesn't mean that the Kazakhs are not going to trade gas and oils with the Russians, because of course they want to take advantage of a good economic situation. On top of that, considering their partners within the region, Russia is really the only one that would be able to buy their oil and gas outside of the Chinese. And the Chinese don't really seem to be that big of a fan of trying to work with the Kazakhs in such a large ordeal at the moment. So really, Kazakhs' only trading partner is the Russians. However, that being said, it doesn't really seem like the Kazakhs are on incredibly good terms with the Russians. It seems like they're slightly unfriendly with them, even sometimes just downright coming to diplomatic insults against each other. So going off of that, I would have to say it's a very tense situation in between Kazakhstan and Russia, and they're really trying to walk a tightrope in between the two. Going over that, I don't think they're going to be selling their gas at higher prices to the Russians, because the Russians may start to do some things back to the Kazakhstanis, which probably wouldn't be that beneficial for them. Probably, for example, trying to embargo things such as food imports to Kazakhstan and other sorts of deals. So they're probably going to try and avoid some sort of a trade war with the Russians and end up just giving them the gas at fair prices. But I hope that does address that well. And also, in case y'all are wondering, what does Kazakhstan look like? I'm going to show y'all something here really quickly. This is the capital of Astana, which is the largest city inside of Kazakhstan. And you can actually see that they got a McDonald's up in here. And I'm going to show you what a McDonald's looks like, because y'all might actually be really interested in this. So, let me drop y'all down. And here's that freaking McDonald's right there.
That's McDonald's?
No, that ain't McDonald's. That's McDonald's, my boy. Like that ain't no McDonald's at all. Nowhere close. But this is what Astana looks like, which is the capital of Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is actually a fairly wealthy country for the region, which is a fairly interesting fact about the country, because they have a large oil industry that they're almost always relying on. And their oil industry, unlike the Russians, actually has fared fairly well. Let me see if I can pull up the GDP of Kazakhstan and show you all this. So they have a population of 19.62 million people, and their GDP right now at the moment is around 225 billion US dollars, meaning that a country with half the population of Ukraine actually has about the same GDP size as Ukraine pre-war. So it's actually a fairly successful country, at least from most measures that we can see. They also have a GDP per capita of 11.5 thousand US dollars annually, which is actually a little bit higher than the Russians by about $1.5 thousand. So overall, for the region, Kazakhstan isn't really that bad off. They're not as bad off as Turkmenistan, because Turkmenistan, let me see here, Turkmenistan is actually pretty bad off. They're at 56 billion. They have a population of 6.4. But the thing is that while this economic number looks good, a lot of people are expecting that Turkmenistan is actually going to go through a crash sometime soon, because the dictator of Turkmenistan is a lot like Nicolae Ceausescu of Romania. And to give you all a quick little rabbit hole here, because this is actually a really interesting one about former Soviet and former Warsaw Pact countries. Dictators in these countries usually have some kind of a tendency to try and create these marble edifices of just raw power that exist in the central area of the capital to try and make them look as good as possible. You can actually see this in Bucharest, Romania, right here down this main street, all the way from the presidential palace, or well, now it's not a presidential palace, but this is what Ceausescu was building it as, right here, and down this massive, pretty much boulevard that they made through the middle of Bucharest that goes all the way down to here and even off in different directions. And one thing that is really crazy that you can even see to this day is that there is a row of buildings right here, Matthew, that goes along these boulevards, but the houses behind them are nowhere close to being as high quality or as nice as the buildings in front of them. And that's because Ceausescu built this thing as entirely as a facade. While everyone in Bucharest is starving to death, this entire boulevard down this direction on the boulevard Decibel, and also the main boulevard heading to the presidential palace, all of these buildings were meant to house the elite of the Romanian Communist Party in absolute luxury, just down this one boulevard alone. And you can actually see, and I'll show y'all real quick, how nice this is. This is this boulevard even today, with it not being as maintained as much as it would have been during Ceausescu's time, with beautiful lush trees, very nice Parisian-style buildings lining the entire boulevard, and the presidential palace down there at the end. It's absolutely beautiful. It's gorgeous. But it's a complete facade.
This is the beauty of that communism stuff. Let the people starve and all that good stuff, and let the people at the top live it up. You know what I mean? Put up that facade, and you're all good.
Yeah.
Also, I noticed they have an arrogant restaurant and bar down there around that circle roundabout. It's like on the bottom side of it. It says arrogant restaurant and bar.
Dude, it really does say that. It just says arrogant. It's like, dang, look at that. But also
for the leader.
But also to show you what's behind that, this is what normal Bucharest, Romania looks like. Completely different than the major boulevard that Ceausescu made, because he wanted to look like a place of grandeur, really to try and continue to promote his cult of personality that he had created inside of Romania. And I got to tell you,
although that really wasn't that horrific looking, though. It looked all right, even though, you know, it wasn't ideal, but it wasn't that bad.
Well, yeah, but we're comparing that, that street, which isn't bad, by the way. I want to say that it's not bad, but we're comparing that to what pretty much is Paris, France, outside of that, around here. Completely.
Yeah, that's true. This front. Look at all those billboards up there, though. It's like gambling billboards all over the top. Do you see that?
Dang, look at that! It's like, look at what.
Yeah, it's nothing but gambling. That's weird.
That's wild. But beyond that, y'all can see that there was a massive difference because of that. But really quickly to take y'all back to Turkmenistan, because the whole reason I'm showing y'all Romania is to kind of lay out the sort of continued repeated traits that dictators in a lot of these former Soviet countries or former Warsaw Pact countries have, is that the dictator of Turkmenistan is doing the exact same thing and is probably going to end up tanking the Turkmen economy because of it in the city of Ashgabat. Ashgabat is a huge city. You can actually see a lot of these development projects just lead into the middle of nowhere with, once again, these massive, unbelievable boulevards into the middle of the desert. Or into the middle of nothingness, like the memorial complex over here, that is literally off in the middle of nowhere, but they're planning on building a whole bunch of developments around it in the future. I gotta show y'all this if we can even get Street View in Turkmenistan, which we can't, because it's a dictatorship and they usually don't like that. But let me show y'all at least a little bit of this. So there is the strip as it goes all the way down the length. All of these buildings are coated with marble if you saw them in the day. It's actually a really impressive sight to see. And then right behind us is this massive like memorial kind of a hotel building thing, sort of a deal that people can hang out at. This city is insane.
Looks like a theme park more than a memorial.
Yeah, it looks more like a theme park. I don't even know what the hell this thing is. I think it's like some sort of a luxury hotel or something along those lines. But the spending makes no sense, and they're actually saying that soon the Turkmens will most likely go into a massive recession because of the uncontrollable spending of the Turkmen government trying to create Ashgabat into this unbelievable Dubai of Central Asia for the most part, without really having the tourism or the kind of government that would support that sort of tourism in the long run. But anyways, getting off of that rabbit hole, I hope I was able to address that incredibly well, Old Warrior, and not only that, go over some interesting talks about the former Soviet countries like Kazakhstan and the kind of situations they're in and what is really going on out there. But still, thank you so much once again for the unbelievable support, Old Warrior, and helping this channel to keep on running, because folks like you have been around forever and helping this channel to keep on running, and we are greatly appreciative for you being a part of the Lease Spring Army. And of course, long live the LSA. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next super chat is going to go to none other than BC Skyman, the official certified channel legend. And he throws in a $50 donation. And thank you very much, BC, for that support as always. He says, Russia sucks. And I agree with that 100%. He also said, chat question, please.
And thank you so much for the support, BC Skyman, true channel legend. Thank you so much through and through. And thank you for always helping this channel to keep on running. And we will make sure to send it to the live chat. But before we do, I do have to agree, Russia sucks with an X. But still, thank you so much once again for being an old guard of this channel, BC Skyman. And thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have been able to be here for so long. You've been a massive help in keeping this channel running and making it possible. And we're greatly appreciative of you almost always being here, except for the hunting trips. And then that's a fun thing for you. And we always get to hear about it, and it always sounds like it is incredible fun. But with that, let's get that live chat, Matthew. What do we got?
And the live chat question sponsored by BC Skyman is going to go to JC the Music Man, who says, do you think Russia would have invaded Ukraine if the U.S. had responded the same way that we're going to do with Israel?
Good question. I think that they most likely would not have, because the situation with Ukraine is a much more fragile one. Because the Iranians are a minor power in the world; they may even be an insignificant power. It may be fair to say that they're on that sort of a level. And so we don't really have to be that concerned about strong arming them, because they will end up giving in the end, and probably submitting to U.S. demands in the region if we strong arm enough, like we are right now. That's mostly because they don't have a nuclear deterrent to work with, because that same kind of strong arming with North Korea gets us really nowhere, and then appeasement with the North Koreans really gets us nowhere either. So it's really a lose-lose to deal with the North Koreans at all on a diplomatic level. But with the Iranians, there's a benefit, because they're scared, and they're scared of a U.S. response. The problem is, with the Russians, they may be scared of our response, but we're also equally scared of their potential response. Because while the Russian conventional army is absolutely deplorable in its state and condition and its funding, the Russian nuclear arsenal is incredibly vast, and even if a small percentage of those nuclear weapons are working, that still means that the Russians probably have about 800 to 900 operational nuclear weapons in their inventory, and out of all of those, probably around 200, 300 of them that could actually end up striking the United States. Going off of that, it's highly plausible that we're scared of dealing with the Russians, because if we deal with them as strong-armed as the Iranians, the Russians may try and call our bluff, then we try and call the Russians' bluff to our bluff, and then we end up actually going into a full-on conventional war with them across the entirety of Eastern Europe. And then if we steamroll them quickly, they will most likely start to fire off intercontinental ballistic missiles towards the United States and the Russian Federation. If it wasn't for the nuclear weapons that the Russians had, we probably would treat them a lot like Iran. But the problem is that they do have those nuclear weapons. There really is no way for us to remove them from their control. And so for that reason, we're probably going to end up seeing that the United States wouldn't have gotten the same scenario or the same result if we had ended up trying to strong-arm the Russians. It's a very unfortunate thing, because the reality would be is that strong-arming the Russians is probably the best answer to their modus operandum in the area of Eastern Europe. But the problem is that they have nuclear weapons, which really greatly exacerbates the situation, makes it a lot more difficult for us to deal with, because we always have to keep in mind that if worst comes to worst, nuclear weapons could start flying, and that's really the end scenario of end scenarios. If nuclear weapons fly, it's over. I mean, it may be over for them if they launched them, but it's over for us as well, of course, according to our mutually assured destruction doctrine, and also according to the Russian preemptive, well, not really preemptive strike doctrine, but defensive strike doctrine. So I hope that does address that live chat, JC Music Man, incredibly well, the best I can, at least how I believe it would have gone, because every country is different. We have to approach every situation differently based off of their economic standing in the world, the kind of resources they have in their country, the population of their nation, the geography, their economic standing, once again in different forms, and also their military standing, as well as their ability to be nuclear capable or not. And then factoring in all of those things, we then come up with a way to deal with each country. And with the Russians, sadly, strong-arming them probably is not that great of a move, but also being weak-wristed or limp-wrist or whatever you want to call it, that is not going to be a good move either, because that, once again, we see right now is not leading us towards any good or positive path either. So overall, it's a really tough deal with the Russians, because I really wouldn't know how we were supposed to avoid the war in the first place. It became inevitable as soon as Ukraine tried to get into NATO. That's really the honest answer, because the Russians want the Black Sea Fleet in Sevastopol. If they can't have that, it may as well just be over for them. And so when Ukraine said we would like to join NATO back in 2021, leading up to the actual invasion of Ukraine in 2022, the Russians were left in a crux. Because if they end up becoming a part of NATO, then that means that they now have the backing of the United States when Ukraine reasserts its claims over Crimea that it legally has, and also over the Donbass as well. And this puts the Russians in the worst scenario, because that means either they have to go into that conventional war then, which they're extremely disadvantaged at, or they can move the Black Sea Fleet out of Sevastopol and redistribute the remainder of the fleet around the rest of Russia, and then lose their ability to try and force the negotiating strategy when a Middle Eastern situation arises, meaning they lose a lot of their standing and a lot of their interests in the region. So going off of that, it's something that was inevitable once Ukraine did ask for NATO membership. The Russians were going to go to war, whether we strong-arm them or not at this point. So then it becomes a matter of how in the world do we help the Ukrainians to end up fighting this war? And a lot of people are also going to be saying, so you're saying that it's Ukraine's fault that the war started. I'm not saying that, because it is entirely within Western and Ukrainian interests for them to join NATO. And that's something that I'm hugely a proponent of and a supporter of, because the Russians are inherently a rival of the Western sphere, and therefore we have to be putting them at a severe disadvantage every single opportunity we can. So going off of that, we want to make sure that Ukraine is in NATO, even if it puts the Russians in a fix. We want the Russians to be in a fix. That's the true reality of it. But the thing is that we have to figure out how to negotiate the troubles that will come out of that once we put the Russians in this really unwinnable bind that they're now in. And right now, I feel like we're kind of fumbling the ball on that, because if we continued massive support to Ukraine militarily, especially in the form of air defense like the Patriots that the Ukrainians are wanting, we could probably ensure that the Ukrainians would be able to end up winning the war, because the Russians wouldn't be able to hit any critical infrastructure behind the lines that would doom Ukraine internally. But right now, it looks like the Russians are actually starting to try and pull an upper hand, and we're kind of asleep at the wheel at the moment. So hopefully we can get some support into Ukraine, and that'll start to turn the situation around. But still, thank you so much, BC Skyman. Go ahead.
I think the only way you could have really deterred Russia from actually going in and invading Ukraine is if Russia felt that we were such a loose cannon as a country. Not that we were reckless. I want to make that clear. I'm not advocating to have reckless leadership or anything like that. But if we were so much of a loose cannon that Russia knew if they went into Ukraine, they actually and seriously, realistically risked having an attack on them by the West and NATO as a whole, that they wouldn't have ever done that. And also, not only is the way we deal with Russia important, it's really important that the way we deal with other conflicts and hotspots around the world as well. Because just like China is watching how we deal with Ukraine and Russia to see if they can invade Taiwan, that's what Russia was doing with us before they invaded Ukraine. They were watching the Middle East and the way we dealt with things down there, and they were looking around all the other hotspots, and they were realizing we're not exactly as much of a loose cannon as we might have been way back in the day, and we're sort of getting a little bit friendlier on a foreign policy level. Not to the point where we're putting our fist down on every single thing. We're sort of letting things go, sort of leaning more on diplomacy, and that's when Putin figured, as a bully, now it's time to go in and try this, because I think I got the best chance to get away with it without getting smacked down really hard by the West.
And that's true. And having a strong arm in Ukraine shows the Chinese and other rivals around the world, like Iran and North Korea, that if they try something, it's not going to end well. And another thing that I saw people saying in the chat is that the Russians have clearly shown at this point they could have moved the Navy from Sevastopol to Novorossiysk. But the thing is that for them to move the entire fleet as it stood before the war to Novorossiysk and also into the area of Ochimchiri inside of West Abkhazia, they would have had to spend a lot of money, because really, in reality, the naval base at Novorossiysk is a very small harbor for the Russian Navy, and the dockyard at Ochimchiri is really just an anchorage. It's not really a full-on naval harbor with all the facilities and extra little bells and whistles that the Russian Black Sea Fleet would need. It would cost a lot of money to do something like that, probably tens of billions of dollars. And the Russians decided to take a gamble, because this is what they were really looking at the beginning of the war. Either they would bend their will to NATO interest and move their fleet from Sevastopol and possibly to Novorossiysk, and kind of lose their ability to have a really powerful and capable navy in the region for quite some time, and also end up out of pocket a lot of money. Or they could try and invade Ukraine in a swift lightning attack that would occur over a very short amount of time, be overall cheap, and not only secure their goal of keeping the Black Sea Fleet in Sevastopol, but also ensuring that NATO forces would never be on a second attack axis towards Moscow and also towards Volgograd, which would pretty much split the Russian economy in two and sever the Russians' ability to really have any kind of economic activity once Volgograd was captured by NATO forces. So they looked at it as a 2-in-1 deal, and they thought that they could probably take over Ukraine pretty cheaply, once again looking at the collapse of Afghanistan, which was a NATO, well, not really a NATO line, but at least a Western aligned and Western-supported government at the time. It fell incredibly quickly. And so the Russians thought that with Ukraine, the Ukrainian government may be believing that there isn't really a lot of hope or a lot of support there. Maybe the Ukrainian government is incredibly weak like the Afghan government was, and so a quick invasion would probably lead to the complete destabilization and collapse of the government and a Russian victory pretty much within days, if not weeks. And so they took that gamble, and it ended up that they're now spending way more money in the long run fighting the war in Ukraine than they ever would have fought trying to convert Novorossiysk into a proper port like Sevastopol. So I hope that also addresses that point fairly well, because that was a very good point. Someone brought up that they could have just moved the fleet anyways, and in the end, it would have clearly been cheaper than the option they took, which is now a prolonged, massive conflict, the biggest one since World War II. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least the best I can. And with that, thank you so much once again, BC Skyman, for sponsoring that live chat from JC Music Man. But with that, we are on to the final question of the segment, and then we're going to be moving back into the Ukraine war news.
And this one is going to go to Rick Clay, who's also a longtime channel viewer, and he throws in another very generous $50 donation. And thank you very much, Rick, for that support. He says Russia has a worker force shortage of 4.5 million workers, and Russia has lost 1.2 million men from the workforce who are non-military drafted because of outward migration to avoid conscription. And when Russia mobilizes for additional troops, twice as many men leave.
And that's true, Rick. And I gotta thank you for the massive support, your 10th super chat to the channel ever. And also, I have to say, that is entirely on point. The Russians do have a massive worker shortage, and it's not getting better due to how Russian demographics work. They actually have a deficit of people dying versus children being born into the world, so they're actually constantly losing manpower with every passing year. And it's getting worse each time. And not only that, the war in Ukraine is really grinding out a lot of these Russian workers into nothing more than worm food. And then not only that, a lot of Russians have ended up fleeing to Finland, the Baltics, and now their only corridor to flee to is through Georgia or into Kazakhstan. So going off of that, they probably will end up having even more massive worker shortages, which will once again lead to the stalling of the Russian economy even farther, which will then exacerbate the Russian economic situation again and start to lead to the end of the war being even sooner than it originally was supposed to be, which is kind of the point of the mobilization, but in a negative way, because the mobilization is supposed to be helping them to end the war in their favor in a good way quicker. But in reality, it's probably going to end up ending the war quicker in a bad way for the Russians because of what's going on the domestic side of things. And the domestic side is so important when you talk about a war. Everyone always talks about the martial side of things. How's the front going? How are the armies advancing? How are the battles there? What are the casualties like? But the reality is that the most important thing that the military actually affects is what's going on back on the home front, because the home front is where a lot of countries really end up losing the war. It's not actually on the battlefield, it's back at home. And that's why America does so well in conflicts throughout history, for the most part, is because we really don't have a lot of troubles or situations at home that either pull us out of a war or make us lose a war. The only time that America has really pulled out of a war, it's because of a lack of public will or public interest to pursue the conflict any farther. Not because of massive economic upheaval, because of the bad situation on the domestic home front here in the country. But the Russians, on the other hand, are in a completely opposite situation compared to that. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, and I thank you so much for the amazing support, Rick Clay, and helping this channel to keep on running, because folks like you helped make this channel possible. And so thank you so much once again. We're now moving on from this question segment and back into the Ukrainian frontline news, starting off in the northeastern area near to Petropavlivka, where we were able to see that the Russians got hit hard. And so here's the clip. That was a really anticlimactic buildup right there. The clip took too long to load. We see the Ukrainians spotting the Russian vehicles. It looks to be several BMPs, possibly, and also some camouflage nets as well being placed over some hideouts. And we see them now striking the Russian positions. So it said, I finally found a hot dog man, and he doesn't see indeed suck. And he sucks hot dogs.
Fuck.
Suck! Man.
With a double C.
Man, it was spelled out with a Z and a U and two C's. Zuck! But beyond that, we can see the Russian vehicles burning in the forests. Once again, showing that the Ukrainian artillery barrage was incredibly successful. We see it continuing to burn, continuing to roast, and that's the end of the clip. And we're now moving on into our next one, a little bit further south, into the area of Novoterasivka, where we're able to see the Russians got hit down here. Check this out. That division is wild. And they're playing the music. Why'd you stop playing that beautiful music? But we can see the Russian artillery piece right there. It looks to be a D-20. But it's a D nothing now. Man, the Ukrainians be putting the D in the D-20. But we see them now targeting another one.
Yeah.
Dear. Aw, man. But we can see them now hitting another Russian artillery post. This one actually covered with a camouflage tarp. We can also see them hitting more artillery. Really just going for counter-battery operations in the area and doing really well at it, too. GW North said Oscar Mayer is going to be doing hit pieces on when he finds out about him dishonoring the industry. Man, it's going to be...
No.
Man,
They're not going to let him drive the Oscar Mayer wiener truck for at least a year.
Man, they're going to have the Oscar Mayer wiener guys get out of the wiener truck dressed up in hot dog costumes, you know, like giving them an old beat down on the side of the street going, how dare you dishonor us? But anyways, we can see the drones continuing to hit all over the place. Oh, and that one's getting a little toasty down there.
It's red hot.
And we can see them hitting some more. Ooh! And we see them just hitting them over and over. And with that, that's the end of the clip. I don't know what the hell that's about, but we're going to get rid of that. Apparently we got bots from a certain group of people that are down here in the south, man. I don't know if you saw that, but I was like, huh.
Yeah, I just saw them now.
Yeah, apparently we got some folks from you know, that place. You know, I was like, huh. I was like, very interesting. But anyways, moving on from that, we got to see that the SBU is blowing up some Russian vehicles. With that funk music. Can we get the AI to make us some funk music? Really get that Ukrainian feel, you know what I mean? But we can see them continuing to hit Russian tanks all over the place, obliterating them, blasting them away, blowing away the improvised IFVs, blowing away more tanks, really sending them to places they don't want to go. Hot dog down, hot dog down. Call in the support group. We need help. I mean, they're hitting everything. EW systems, APCs, trucks even. More trucks. Endless trucks. More trucks. More tanks. More trucks. I don't even know what that was. So I was about to keep it going. But we can see them hitting another truck and another Ural. And another Ural.
Oh, haunted Ural. Look at it. It's like it's the ghost Ural.
Ooh, I'm going to put relish on your hot dog. Ooh. But beyond that, that's the end of that clip right there. Very nice to see. And we're now going to be moving on from that area and a little bit farther south and into Kremenna. Because today, a Russian journalist got hit. Man down! Russian propagandist, Major Evgeny Polovodov, ended up getting into Kremenna forest today, and he ended up not coming out. This is a clip from the failed news expedition that was made into the forest today on the Russian side. Oh, блядь! Пиздец, это нахуй, блядь!
Какую сторону лучше? Разрыв вражеского снаряда. Горячие осколки разлетаются со свистом. Эвакуация в небе.
Oh, they throw him in the glove! Like, Zoink Scoop, I think the journalist is dead! Raggy! We're out of a job!
Come on, gang, we gotta go.
Like, Zoink Scoop?
Сюда птица нет? А? Птица. Нет. Жужжала детка.
Oh, now they're really running.
Алексей, давай.
Hey, this guy's wearing blue jeans. He's a Western spy. Someone needs to arrest this man and put him in prison.
Смертельное ранение получил майор Евгений Половодов, наш сопровождающий. Мы вместе приехали в танковый батальон в Серебрянском лесничестве под
Also, really quickly, y'all could hear there that he said Evgeny Polodov ended up being killed. They actually said that right there in the news clip.
Местоположение враг вычислил. Несколько ударов артиллерии. Оператор Денис Шум, раненый в ногу, продолжает снимать.
We now see them trying to run to the loaf as they're still under heavy fire.
I said, "Ah, blia."
Man, you know, this fella here, man, the one who went, "Oh, blia." He's about to get in that truck, and when it gets quiet, he's about to go, "Oh, it tucked off." And it's gonna be like, "Oh, it tucked off."
He's looking for a change of underwear right now.
Man, do they give out diapers on the front line? No, blia. Get in the loaf, damn it.
That guy's having a rough day. He said, "Ah!"
Man, oh my god, the loaf got flown. Look at this. Dude, the loaf got flight time in this thing. Look. Oh my god.
Wow,
They may as
two
well just
wheels.
got in a head-on collision like that. Also,
That guy got loafed in the face too on the left.
Also, shout out to my favorite support actor in this entire news clip, the busted window on the side of the loaf. Gotta appreciate shards of broken glass in your ass while you're sitting on the bottom of the loaf. But anyways.
Танкового батальона 36-го полка оказывают помощь раненым прямо на ходу.
Oh, someone just went flying out of the back of the loaf! Oh my god, did you see that? Oh my god!
Oh,
They're
they
gone!
got yanked.
Dude, it's
They
like
got yanked.
it's like a freaking monster came up to the back of the loaf and snatched him out. They went.
Wait, play it again.
Помощь раненым прямо на ходу.
Oh my god!
Damn, man, what the hell happened?
They're now yelling, "Stop!
Раненых
Stop!"
вывезли и тело погибшего офицера. Евгений Половодов, наш товарищ, старший офицер пресс-центра группировки.
Man, what the hell is this photo about?
Oh, this is the guy who ended up getting whacked.
С ним. Но
Oh,
он тоже
damn.
делал репортажи с фронта.
В районе Петропавловки артиллеристы уничтожено.
Огнем из танка были уничтожены 2 боевые
A
машины.
little bit of a tribute to the guy.
На рубеже обороны 6-й общевойсковой армии.
But really quickly, we have to go back to the medic that got yoinked.
Прямо на ходу.
Yoink!
Damn.
Раненых
Oh man, chop
They
luck for that.
said, they said the man was a good propagandist, bliat. We lost a good man here. He knew how to lie better than most of those dogs.
Man, they sat there and said he was covering the great and invincible and legendary Russian army while they're showing the literal clown show that occurred as they were trying to leave the battlefield, the loaf getting overturned, a medic getting yoinked out of the back of the van. I mean, it's complete chaos of what they're showing. And they're like, he was a hero of the great Russian army and the great Russian state. It's like, come on. It's like, come on. The whole thing, even them leaving the place, was a joke. It was a literal joke from beginning to end. But that's all we got out of the Primitive Force today. Beyond that, it doesn't look like that the Russians tried to push on Turney, because apparently they were all back there getting a huge kick out of watching the medic get yoinked out of the van at 30 miles an hour. But moving on from that and into the next clip near to Vesely, we also get to see another T-90M destroyed in the area. Ooh, that sounds copyright. But here we go. Here's the drone and the T-90M. And, ooh, toasty.
So toasty. Never cold, bliat. Always warm and you know, flaming.
Man, just like my hot dogs. You can get my hot dogs warm, never cold, always on the griddle, and call me the grease trap because I'm slurping it up. But moving on from that,
Dear Lord.
from that and down to the area of Zaitsevo, we also got to see some Russians getting hit down in this area. And so let's see here. Here we go. Whoa. Oh, wow, they got that music blasted. Anyways, watch the Russians get blown away right here. They're going to get blown away by our wit and jokes about themselves. And here it comes. And it's going to hit the first MTLB. Oh, look, we got a little 3D animation of the MTLBs. showing the radar systems and everything. But it's about to be a no more. Oh,
they flew in a whole plane on that one.
Man, we got that swole honey badger.
Swole honey badger. Man, that thing is juicing, man. It's doing the roids.
Man, that thing's going or something like that. It's like, hey, man, look at that thing. Dude, that is one badger I would not want to see on a dark night in a back alley. You know what I mean? Like that's one badger I wouldn't want to see. And also, man, I'd be even more scared if it was a bright night instead of a dark night, because aren't nights inherently dark?
Wait, say that again?
I said I would be scared to see this thing in a back alley on a dark night, and then I said, why the hell did I say dark night? Because aren't all nights inherently dark because it's night?
I guess so.
I guess so. But anyways,
I guess so.
We see that badger, it went, yeah! But then that's the end of the clip. Nice to see they were able to knock out that slaw! Coleslaw, baby. But with that, that's the end of that clip, and we're now moving on into our next one, a little bit further down the line, and towards Avdiivka, near Novoselivka, where we got to see some Russians getting blown up there. But we can see here the drone getting ready to hit this BTR. Oh, wow, that thing started heating up really quickly. Oh, whoa!
Explosive. It blew the hatch open, blядь.
Dude, that's what happens when you put the stove on and you forgot to turn it off. That's what happens. Ooh, wow. They're really hitting these guys pretty hard in this area. Another toasted tank. And you see the explosion emoji right there. The drone even. And all that stuff in between. Wonderful stuff. Beautiful stuff. Moving from that area and down towards Stepove, we were able to see U.S. weapons in Ukraine. And we were able to get an interesting video about it from none other than the amazing United 24. Check it out, y'all. Check it out. Man, this is a bop I can vibe to. This is like the sound that I make whenever I hit that little doorstop thing on the side of the wall and goes just like they're just hitting it over and over. Chalk scratching on the chalkboard every once in a while. It's a drip. It's a whole vibe. Ooh! Look at that butte blow up. We actually showed that here on this channel like a week and a half ago.
It was a reboot, блядь.
Glad to see they know where to get the clips. But we can see them now showing an Abrams on the move. Man, look at that thing. That thing is beautiful. Is this just a music video or something?
I think it is. It's like no narration or anything.
Okay, hang on. Sorry. Yeah, it actually has some narration. I was about to start singing Amish Paradise if we weren't going to get anything out of this in a minute. I was about to be like, we keep spending most our lives living in an Amish paradise or something like that. It's like, there's nothing going on here.
Наша Бредлі прийшла. Підписки БТР розбирає щось. Це бачите, смалить наш Бредлік. Підписки БТР намагається втікти. Ну не вийде. Зараз арта працює. Міномети включилися. І Бредлік приїхав. Це наша арта. Бачите, Бредлік доїхав почти до підписів. Це їм конкретна робота, зараз атаку не розбере.
I see someone saying, these are way old videos. Yeah, but they're about to start talking about the American weapons systems.
Все, наш Бредлик только что бэху спалил. Курску. Красавчики.
Oh! We've been flatlined, Matthew. Oh, God!
We were lagging for some 5 seconds, man. Just a wee 5 seconds. We were lagging.
Oh, my Lord! When will this nightmare end?
Да, це Бредлі робота, бачите? От що значить Бредлі? Вона хоч і дорога, ну вона реально рубає пі***. Підери забігали тут у хати. Зараз Бредлі проїхала, їм вирубає. І наша піхота їх зачищає.
Just flipping some tic-tacs around in the background.
Yeah. We now hear them beating a rug on the wall. That's actually the sound of the 30 mil of the Bradley. Oh, and that thing's rolling up to finish the job. Oh my God!
Oh, crap.
Oh my Lord, dude, this thing ran up like a monster. Oh my Lord! Man, the Russians said, "We're getting away," and then the Bradley said, "Oh no, you don't!" And then they came around the corner to start wiping them out. Another demonstration. Is this really like? You know what? We're actually going to end the clip here because I thought there was going to be some narration and it sounded like there was going to be earlier, but now we're 4 minutes in and there still is no narration. But still, great to see United 24 putting out the raw juice. And of course, you can find juice like that about a week or 2 weeks before those videos were even shown here on United 24, here on this channel. Not saying we, you know, are up to speed or anything, but, you know, you might want to subscribe because, you know, we usually get to see all that much earlier on. But moving on from that, we got to see a tank from the 3rd Brigade operating in the area. Y'all want to see this? I know y'all do. Y'all want to see the juice. Here is the juice. If there's music, I'm literally about to whip out that AI music system, Matthew, and just throw in something to have it play. Yep, we're going to get funk.
I love that, like, bell sound, like Chad music. I love that. Every time it comes on, I just, like, wanting to pull my hair out.
Man, I'm about to create some, man. We're about to put some hype funk on. So let's see if we can get some. Okay, so the tank's rolling forward. And we see the edit is just working with the funk, and they put the vintage film layer over the clip. I mean, overall, not bad. And we can see we're getting some funk trap generated up in the system. We're about to have some beats, Matthew, some straight up beats. That kind of brain melt that we need. All right, let's get it. There we go. That's exactly what you would normally hear. I'm not gonna lie, that stuff.
Man, is this something that AI made?
Yeah, it just made it literally like right on the spot.
Wow, I just had lyrics and everything. Sound like the same garbage they're playing in the videos.
I know. That's crazy, right? Like it's actually insane. But anyways, we're gonna pause that because I honestly rather like it without music. I'm not gonna lie. But
I was really just hear the tank sounds, really. Like, don't they record audio? Like, I just want the pure sound.
They do record audio, but I think they believe. I think a lot of these folks that publish these videos think the audio is lame, so they put over Trabaholics over it, and then we end up with music on every single clip. But still, moving on from that and on into our next clip, a little bit further behind the lines, we also got to see some more drone hits being conducted by the 3rd Brigade's units. When you see a T-72 right here getting absolutely clapped. And while we're watching these Russian tanks get clapped, a lot of people have been talking about the fact that Ukraine has passed a new mobilization bill that was 4,300 amendments long. The thing's thicker than the Bible. But a lot of people have been talking about it today and saying that it's possibly normal for this part of the war, or they're getting desperate for men, or they need to match Russian numbers. What are y'all thinking? And Matthew, what are you thinking?
All right, like the enforcer said, Ukraine passed a new mobilization bill to draft more civilians, and they also increased the draft dodging penalty as well. And what are everyone's thoughts? It looks like 36% said it's normal for this phase of the war, 35% said Ukraine is getting desperate for men, and 23% said Ukraine needs to match Russia's numbers. And in my opinion, I don't think that they're really getting really desperate for men just yet. Obviously, they do need more soldiers. That's an obvious thing. But I think it's more about trying to match Russia's numbers because, like it was cited today, in the eastern, I believe, part of Ukraine, the Russians outnumbered the Ukrainians 10-1 in that region. and Ukraine has to get more guys in the military to be able to match them, to be able to effectively fight them off. Because even though the Russians are poorly equipped and terribly trained, a numbers advantage like that, 10-1, it has to be matched. It simply cannot be ignored. So I'm with the 24%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say I'm with the 36%. It's normal for this phase of a war. No country can go without mobilizing or conscripting throughout an entire war, especially a large conflict like this, especially from Ukraine's perspective. So I think that's incredibly normal. Historically, this is really nothing to bat an eye at. What's the bat an eye at, though, is when they start conscripting kids and incredibly old men. That's when you need to start batting an eye because things are going badly. But for now, this seems to be a fairly normal workings of normal wars. But moving on from that into our next clip of Avdiivka, we also got to see more drone attacks conducted by the Ukrainians in the 3rd Brigade. And so, let's get that funk rolling. And we're just getting the absolute Ukrainian experience here. And it's actually matching the beat. Not bad. Alright, that's enough of that.
Jeez, man.
Man, beat goes hard. But anyways, that's the end of the clip right there. Very nice to see them continuing to hit Russian forces in the area. And with that, we're moving on to the next clip near Krasnoyarivka, where we got to see a Ukrainian assault from the 58th Motorized Brigade. We got some more trap beats coming in. I'm not going to play the trap.
Next thing you know, they're going to start tagging SoundCloud like profiles to these beats. Next thing you know. Man,
next thing you're going to hear is, all right, yes. Danny G in the building. It's gonna be like, no, stop. It's gonna be like, stop, for the love of God. Oh my God, man. Did you see that? The live chat?
Let's see. Oh, damn.
Oh my gosh. Whoa. Whoa. But geez. But anyways. We can see the Ukrainians dismounting the APC. It appears to be an M113 or possibly an FV43. No, it's an M113. We can now see the Ukrainians advancing onto the tree line, actually taking kind of like an arc from the APC through the field and then into the tree line. So that way they kind of enter the tree line instead of straight on. They kind of enter it from the side instead. We now see them bombarding the Russian positions and attempting to root the Russians out with high explosives. And also,
man, they got these guys running more like more than O.J. Simpson did in that Bronco.
Rip O.J. Oh my God. Dude, you know, it's crazy to hear like O.J. Simpson died today. I don't know if you'll know that. Maybe we should cover that in the news today. But O.J. Simpson is dead. He died today at 76 years old.
They had to replay that footage of him running around California in that Bronco, too, just for the hell of it. It's like, here's some footage of that white Bronco running around at 40 miles an hour with the whole police squad behind it.
Yeah. Oh, man. Goodness. I mean, goodness gracious, man, did that cancer did OJ like he did his wife. But anyways, we can see them running around here in the open after clearing the Russians out back to their APC to mount the vehicle and then leave. Successful mission. And with that, that's the end of the clip. But very nice to see the 58th Motorized Assault Brigade doing its thing. Moving on out of the area and a little bit farther south and into Slavny, we were also able to see that a Mr. S got blown up. And it was a very impressive blow up because when Mr. S's blow up, they blow up with enough explosive force to actually disintegrate the vehicle. So these are the shards and remains of what was once the mighty Mr. S SPG, the largest and most powerful SPG or tracked SPG that is within the Russians' inventory. Rest in pieces. It will never be missed. Moving on from that and into the next clip near Novomykhailivka, we also got to see a Russian assault getting knocked out today as well. All right, back to the funk beat. Oh my lord.
That's so bad.
I know, it's terrible. I don't know why people like that music. Whoa, did you see that? Did you? I think I just saw a flight miles, Matthew. Look at this. Oh,
Oh, it looked almost fake, like that somebody like edited that in.
I think it was actually. We actually have to go back and review this one. It looked like clothes. Let's check. Yeah, it was clothes. That's why it looks edited, because it was like clothes like flying up in the explosion. But anyways, we can see the tanks getting hit in the fields. Oh. See the BMP is getting toasted. Ooh. Oh. Whoa. Are we?
I think we might be.
Oh, we're back. Oh my gosh. We were gone for so long. It was actually like freaking me out this time. But we're back, everyone. We're back. Don't freak out. Don't panic. Don't worry. The Lease Spring Army will never die. It never will. At least on my watch. Or Matthew's watch. Or anyone's watch, for that matter. But with that, it's now time for us to move on to ENRAGED, where we got to see today that the international agency, the International Atomic Energy Agency, is now concerned about the security of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant again. Who would have thought? Who would have thunk? Holes in the building from explosions caused by drones and missiles? Nah, that's nothing to concern yourself about. That's crazy talk. But we can see that apparently my boy Grossi is a little concerned. So, moving on from that, and on down into the area of Krinky, we were also able to see a clip down here of Magyar's birds taking out some...
No.
What?
No.
What?
We got lag again.
No. No. Come on, man. What happened? Come on, just power through, Jack. Just, oh my lord. Oh my lord.
I think we're back.
Jack. Oh, Jack, I was in the foothills of the Himalayas. Bang. Oh my lord, I hate this. I absolutely hate the lag. Oh man. We're gonna bomb the lag like we bombed.
Whoa, Jack! Whoa, my head, Jack! Lag!
We're gonna end up bombing the lag like we bombed the Houthis strongly. But anyways, here's the clip. All right, we're gonna be muting the circus.
That sounds copyrighted, Jack. Turn it off. Turn it off.
That sounds like JoJo's Wild Adventure, Jack. But anyways, I can see them hitting multiple different Russian drones in the air, taking them straight out.
Also, someone said the stream's lagging as we mentioned OJ, and it went south. We apologize to the ghost of OJ. Please leave the stream alone.
The ghost of OJ, he's about to get us. If he didn't get us, why he's really going to get us? But
OJ!
Allegedly, whoa! Oh man, we're going crazy. But anyways, we can see Magyar's birds doing a great job. We love to see it. Whoa, we gotta get Crypto Caveman out of the chat. Whoa, you know, you want Crypto on their name. Watch out. But anyways, moving on from that.
Watch it, Jack.
And moving on into the only area of the Mykolaiv Oblast that the Russians control, right on the very end of the Kinburn Spit, we were able to see that a Russian MLRS got hit today. Check it out. I gotta tell y'all, I don't know. This is a duplicate. I'm so sorry, everyone. This is actually a duplicate. I realized that as soon as I saw the explosion right there. So, with that, we're actually moving out of the area and on up to Kyiv to cover the speech from President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. You've got to be kidding me. He doesn't have a speech today. He didn't make one. He skipped today. He'll make one tomorrow. Hopefully twice as long, so that way we can get a twice as long a restroom break and a snack break tomorrow.
Hey, we might be missing the speech, but at least we got that picture of that lot in the background still right there, I see.
Man, you know what? You know what? I think I'm going to have to do something really quick. Let me take this over to YouTube and let me go check. Because it seems incredibly weird that he wouldn't make an address today. I don't think he was traveling anywhere. So, President of Ukraine. Actually, he did travel today, apparently. Let's see here.
Oh, he was on the lam.
So, we have this address. He was talking today with the president of Poland and also Lithuania. So, without further ado, Let me get this up on the screen.
Wait, when did Poland, like, there was a problem a while back over the grain thing, and they couldn't get any diplomats to meet. Now he's talking with the president. That's unexpected.
Man, they shook hands. They said, it is what it is. And then they just went on with it. I mean, it was that simple. It was that easy the whole time.
Well, that's good to hear.
It's great to hear. And let's see. Oh, here we go. Okay, so it's from Ukrainian to English. We're very happy to see. So, here is what Zelenskyy had to say today. Actually, let me back up really quickly.
Oh, goodness. The sign language thing's going to distract the hell out of me the whole time.
I know. Oh, my goodness. It's going to be tough. But anyways, here's the speech.
За теплі слова. Дорогі друзі, сьогодні важлива участь України у саміті ініціативи трьох морів. Я дякую Гетанесе, пане президенте, за запрошення для України. І це був плідний день та дуже детальні та вчасні зустрічі та важливі для нас перемовини. Передусім, я хочу подякувати кожному народу і хочу подякувати кожному лідеру, які підтримують нашу оборону, наших людей, наш захист від російського терору. Ми маємо пам'ятати всі з історії наших народів, що лише спільні дії та реальна солідарність здатні захистити свободу наших країн від російської агресії. Саме зараз, саме в цьому році ми маємо сконцентрувати увесь наш потенціал на тому, щоб захистити і Україну, і незалежність кожного народу, який межує з Росією. Всі ми бачимо, що Путін не хоче обмежуватись лише нашою землею. Погрози Росії охоплюють увесь простір від Європи до Казахстану, і це загроза для всіх. Сьогодні я говорив саме про це на нашому саміті. Перше – це ППО. Ми маємо нагальну потребу у захисті Харкова, Одеси, Миколаєва, Запоріжжя та усіх інших наших міст від російських ударів. Я дякую кожному лідеру, який нас чує, який готовий допомагати в комунікації з іншими партнерами, щоб Україна нарешті отримала системи ППО, які можуть нам допомогти. Вони є у світі та мають захищати життя. ППО – це перший пріоритет зараз. Путін вже третій рік намагається знищити нашу енергетику. У нього абсолютно цивільні мішені, він хоче зламати життя людей. Ми маємо зламати його наміри. Далі, звичайно, фронт. Я чітко окреслив те, що планує робити Путін у цьому році. У нас є достатня інформація від розвідки. Критично важливо, щоб кожен з партнерів виконав обіцяне щодо постачання зброї та снарядів, а також щодо наших домовленостей про спільні виробництва. Кожного дня б'ють російські ракети, і кожного дня збільшується кількість обіцянок. Кожного дня українські воїни на фронті витримують жорстокий тиск російської артилерії та керованих авіабомб. Реальність нарешті повинна почати відповідати словам. Я дякую всім лідерам, усім нашим партнерам, які дійсно реалізовують те, про що ми домовились. Це рятує багато життів. І маємо зробити все, не втрачаючи час, щоб наші сили ще стали більше. Постачання зброї, виробництво, фінанси – все це сьогодні ми обговорювали. Третє. Політичні завдання на цей рік. Зараз на саміті та на перемовинах з лідерами я говорив про те, що критично важливо для європейської єдності підтвердити, що Євросоюз не боїться самого себе і що НАТО не боїться своїх власних правил. Кожна демократична нація в Європі, яка поділяє та захищає спільні цінності Європи та євроатлантичного простору, заслуговує бути членом Європейського Союзу та Північно-Атлантичного альянсу. І це факт. Цей факт треба підтвердити реальними діями. Червень – це час, коли буде правильним фактично почати перемовини про вступ України в Євросоюз. Європі потрібен цей сигнал її власної сили, щоб у Путіна не було спокуси подумати, нібито Європа проявляє слабкість. Так само і Альянс. Я сказав сьогодні партнерам, що Путін не зважає на наші дії, готуючи свої агресивні кроки. Він сам будує свій графік ескалації настільки, наскільки може, і настільки, наскільки нібито на щось він реагує. Путін хоче знищити нас, Реально він хоче знищити Україну, а згодом підкорити всіх інших сусідів Росії. І у нашого життя, у нашої безпеки просто немає альтернатив. І саме тому немає реальних альтернатив і запрошенню України в НАТО. Потрібне це запрошення в Альянс. Україна всі наші люди, наші воїни заслуговують на це. Я дякую всім партнерам, які нас у цьому підтримують та відповідно говорять з іншими партнерами. І так само важливо, щоб лідери говорили щодо української формули миру. Сьогодні я запросив партнерів з Тримор'я не лише взяти участь у першому інаугураційному глобальному саміті миру, але й приєднати до залучення на цей саміт інших лідерів. Важливо, щоб світова більшість реально своїми діями об'єдналась заради справедливого миру, так само, як всі об'єднані щодо цього в риториці. Дякую також кожній державі, які працюють з нами над двосторонніми безпековими угодами. Сьогодні вже є 9-та така угода з Латвією. Наші команди України, Литви, Польщі, а також і Естонії, і інших партнерів. Всі працюємо над такими угодами зараз. Важливо, щоб це були сильні тексти і реальні дієві домовленості. Ми можемо зміцнити одне одного. І ще одне. Я хочу зараз подякувати народу Литви. Усім тут, у Вільнюсі, у кожному вашому місті, у кожній вашій громаді, хто підтримує нас від перших днів цієї війни. Ми в Україні дійсно відчуваємо, як ви вірите в нас, як бажаєте нам спільної перемоги. Я дякую вам. Я вдячний народу Польщі, кожному серцю, яке відчуло однакове з нами прагнення жити незалежно від Москви. Ми можемо перемогти російський терор, і ми маємо бути разом заради цього. Вчора Польща згадувала загиблих у Смоленській катастрофі. І вже 14 років минуло. І мої співчуття і хай пам'ять про усіх людей, чиї життя були забрані, про усіх, хто загинув від Росії, буде нагадуванням нам про те, як важливо бути сильними та не проявляти слабкості. Дякую, Гітанас, ще раз за організацію і запрошення. І дякую всім, хто допомагає. Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Героям слава, that was read by a shock. But anyways, that is the speech from President Volodymyr Zelenskyy here on day 778 of the news of the war in Ukraine. And it's time for us to move on into that next segment. It's the segment that we all get a lot of it fun out of. We get to talk to all of y'all, every single one of you, about anything y'all want to talk about. It's the question segment, and it's the poll segment if we have any left. There's just so much fun to be had in this segment, an endless amount. And I feel like tonight has been incredibly fun, especially because of the Cremena Forest clip, where we watched that loaf flip over, and then we also watched a nurse get yoinked out of the back of the van. But beyond that, we are going to have even more fun in this segment, because there is endless fun to be had. But still, with that, Matthew, take it away.
All right, and with that, we have no polls left to address, so we're jumping straight into our Super Chat segment, and our first one is going to go to Blue Flam 777 LSA, the longtime channel legend, and he throws in two, that's right, two $50 Super Chats. And thank you very much, Blue Flam, for that support. He says, I was on a business trip, and my hotel tried to charge me $10 extra for air conditioning. That wasn't cool. Dad jokes for the win. LSA and Slav Ukraine. Question to the chat.
Aw, man. Blue Flam 777 coming in with a real dad joke. I like that one, actually, man.
He's sideways.
Man, I gotta tell you, I actually like that one. That was a really, really good one. And I gotta thank you so much for the support, Blue Flam 777, and always sliding in the smooth dad jokes. They are the best dad jokes. I'm gonna be making sure to take notes. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support, Blue Flam, and thank you for throwing in some of the most memorable super chats that we get from time to time, including Duncan VR's animal noises and your dad jokes. We get a whole comedy gambit out of the super chats and the live chats each and every night. And so thank you so much once again for the support. Thank you for helping this channel to keep on running, and thank you for throwing in a dad joke. And now, Matthew, we have to make sure to get on to the second one.
Oh, well, let's first get that question to the chat on that first one. And this one is going to go to Mr. Drake 333, who says, why not just ask OPEC to increase the productivity of oil to compensate Russia lagging production. There's only one problem with that, Mr. Drake. OPEC is very, very unfriendly to the West. Very unfriendly. And it's very bad to have to rely on them to cooperate with us. That's why it's so important not to have to rely on them and have our own oil production. But Enforcer, what say you?
It kind of depends. There's different answers to be had there. Some people like the foreign oil for reasons. Some people like the domestic oil for certain different reasons. But beyond that, one thing I will say is that you cannot go ask OPEC to make the prices cheaper, because if OPEC hears that prices are going up and they want you to make more so the prices stay low, they're probably going to keep the same amount so the prices go up and they are able to make more money. So they're probably not going to make more even if we ask them. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. But once again, the issue with OPEC, it's not the crude oil that's the problem here. It's refined oil products that are the problem. That's the thing. You see, crude oil, there's a lot of it. But refined gasoline, there's not that much of it out there for sale on the foreign market compared to crude oil. And so if your country just needs like a quick boost or a quick infusion, pretty much, of gasoline, and you need a lot of it, it's going to jack up the prices globally. And that's what we're scared of with the Russians, is that they're going to end up driving up the international trading price of gasoline, not necessarily crude oil. Because technically, with Russian oil refineries being knocked out, crude oil is actually probably going to be a little bit cheaper, but gasoline is going to be far more expensive. It's kind of like saying there's an endless amount of iron, so a cast iron pot's actually going to be cheaper because there's just so much iron to go around to make that stuff out of. But a steel pot is going to be more expensive because the steel factory shut down 6 months ago and no new steel products have been made at all because of that. That's kind of the comparison that I can make right there to explain what we're going to be dealing with right now. The United States is scared about this, and I'll make sure to try and explain this in as clinical terms as possible. The United States is scared about this because one of the biggest things that affects the average American voter in the United States is gas prices. It's usually a big talking point come election time every 4 years, is how cheap the gas is, kind of like how cheap the groceries are and that whole deal. So what the current administration is scared of at the moment is that the gas prices, because of the Ukrainians attacking the oil refineries, is going to massively increase because the Russians are going to be buying a lot of the world's gasoline surpluses to try and keep the Russian economy rolling here into the near future. So then that means if the United States wants to buy any gas internationally and have it imported into America, it's going to be far more expensive. This means that gas prices could rise in the United States, and because of that, the current administration's pretty much seat in the office could be jeopardized because the opposition could say that the gas prices are going up directly because of them and they're to blame, and for that reason they ought to vote for someone else. So the current administration is really trying to weigh in this domestic matter of where will they sit in the upcoming presidential election over Ukraine's really pretty much national security as far as it's fighting the Russians. Am I a big fan of U.S. domestic politics getting intermingled with our foreign policy? Absolutely not. And this is one thing I will say very clearly, because this is something that both political parties have actually done in America over the course of the war, is tie a foreign policy international issue to domestic issues inside the United States. So this is a fairly fair critique and remains within the no politics rule, because I'm not addressing one side and saying that they're better than the other. I'm just saying this in general about both of them, is that I am completely against both parties trying to tie Ukraine, a international foreign policy matter, into domestic matters in the United States. They're completely apples and oranges. And an international affair, even if it does affect domestic affairs, that should not be brought into the equation. It should just be considered an issue to have to deal with on the domestic end if that issue arises. We can't end up screwing over international long-term strategic overviews and goals because a short-term election needs to be won, or someone is trying to win a short-term election. That has been done on both sides so far over the war. It's terrible posturing. It looks absolutely awful. And not only that, it shows how short-sighted really everyone in politics is at the moment, that everyone is pretty much trying to screw over any long-term picture or long-term big picture that the United States has for short-term gains on a political level. That's something that is a very bad idea, because if you're always focusing on the short term instead of the long term for the United States, you're going to end up destroying both the short term and the long term overall, literally instantly. So I would have to say, not a good move. That's the best thing I could say about it, addressing that live chat as far as that's going. As far as the OPEC question is concerned, we shouldn't even be caring about that. This is once again a completely international concern. This is a foreign policy concern. And I believe that a smart move, not to weigh in on politics, but a smart move, if I was the current president and I was dealing with a situation, I would probably start to try and see about having more domestic production increased for the short while, because of course the international gasoline markets are very unpredictable at the moment, given what the Russians are doing and having to buy. So we should massively ramp up domestic production. May not be in line with other policies, but it's a required necessity to keep the economy running and keep folks happy. And then explain that as there's a war going on in Ukraine, so these times are exceptional. Later on, we'll go back to doing what we originally planned to do, but for now we can't, because the situation is just too far out there for us to try and pursue the original policy path. That's what I would say. It's a logical answer. It works within everything else. But I honestly think that a lot of the planners on the political side of things on both sides in this country really have absolutely no hill of beans of an idea of how to really run this thing. Well, not run this thing, because the nation doesn't get run at the end of the day, but at least try and figure out how to work around things, because you have to work around this. This is something that is a non-negotiable deal. It's a strategic concern. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least in my opinion. And thank you so much once again, Blue Flam, for sponsoring that live chat and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Blue Flam 777 LSA once again, who put in that second $50 donation. He said, I asked my wife if I was the only one that... Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Let me read this one.
Nah, it's good. It's good. We'll let it slide. We'll let it slide.
He said, I asked my wife if I was the only one she slept with. She said yes. The others were 7s and 8s.
Oh!
Questions to the chat. Oh, no.
Man, that one was bad. Oh, man. I asked my date if I was the only one she had gone out with. She said yes. The other ones were 7s and 8s. Oh, man. But anyway. I like that one better. I went on a date and it went terribly. Boo-hoo. But anyways, beyond that, that's it. The chat is coming in, Matthew, with the reviews. They're like, ooh, but still, thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Blue Flam once again with another massive super chat. And also, I love that joke. That is a pretty good one, but still, thank you so much once again for support. Thank you for helping this channel to keep on rolling, and thank you for throwing in a second dad joke. And so with that, we are going to get a question from the chat. And so what do we got, Matthew?
And this question to the chat is going to go to Greg Kelly, who says, if Iran does attack Israel, do you think they will do like what Hamas did, launch a barrage of missiles at them and hoping to overpower the Iron Dome?
That's probably what they'll do, because we're also seeing that in Ukraine, the only way the Russians are actually able to end up damaging Ukrainian infrastructure is through brute force, large-scale attacks. That's really the only way to try and succeed. So the Iranians will most likely do the same thing that Hamas did, but on a far larger scale with far larger weaponry, and try and send in a mass attack wave into Israel to try and shoot down, not shoot down, but destroy a large amount of Israeli military infrastructure. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least in my opinion. And thank you so much, Blue Flam 777, for sponsoring your second live chat of the night. But with that, thank you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Jack Ray, who puts in a $30 donation. And thank you very much, Jack, as well, for your support. He says, thanks for the stream. This helped my anxiety today. It was getting super bad from today's news. And I'm telling you what, Jack, the anxiety was raging today because Iran is acting like a bunch of fools out there, and they're not sure what they're wanting to do. So I'm sitting there the whole time thinking, am I going to be able to make a video about Iran today, or are they going to not do anything today? And it turned out they cowered it out once again. Like I said before, it's good for the West, but at the same time, Iran is making a fool out of themselves. But I'm glad it helped. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I gotta say, thank you so much for the support, Jack Ray. And I gotta say, thank you so much for enjoying the stream, and thank you for being an old god as well. I gotta say that. Thank you for being an old god. And I'm happy to hear that it helps you in anxiety. I love to know that our news does the opposite of most other news that's out there. It actually helps people with the anxiety, but also gets the news out at the same time. I can't tell you all enough. I actually pride myself greatly on being able to do that because so many people want to make y'all feel like garbage. Really, everyone else in the sphere on YouTube, except for I think one or two of them, wants to make you feel like garbage when you hear the news and just make you think, oh, the world is over and everyone's dying, and it's just. It's so sad to see people fall into that crap and think that that's what's good, because it just freaks people out, like you, Jack Ray, and rightfully so, because when you hear this stuff endlessly, it does freak you out, and it freaks me out even. I will agree, and I gotta thank you so much once again for appreciating the stream. I thank you greatly for saying that we helped you with your anxiety. That's a high compliment. Not only that, we're more than happy to help with something like that. And thank you so much once again for being here with us tonight, Jack Ray. Thank you for enjoying this channel, helping it to keep running, and not only that, getting something out of it for yourself, because we always love to know that everyone on the channel is getting something out of the channel more than just the news, like friends to talk to in the live chat, or better yet, jokes, a good time, maybe a stress reliever, maybe a little bit of a lessening of anxiety, things like that. But still, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and our next one is going to go to Jason Carpenter, who puts in a $25 donation. And thank you very much, Jason, for that support indeed. He says, I will not turn my back on Ukraine. He said, it's always dark before the light, and great show, my friends. And thank you, Jason. He says, would like to recommend a book called On a Knife's Edge, Ukraine 1942 through 1943. Great listen. And question from the chat, please.
And thank you so much for the amazing support, Jason Carpenter. Love the profile picture of the Dougie. And also, I'm not going to turn my back on Ukraine either. It's tough in war. People don't get that. I mean, people didn't turn their back on Britain in the Blitz, and they still ended up coming out on top in World War II. Just because things are bad doesn't mean that things are always going to be bad. It means that hopefully soon something will turn around and something will become a little bit better. But hopping ship when things aren't going well is something you do with sports teams. It's nothing you do with international diplomacy or war, for that matter. And I got to thank you so much for enjoying the great show tonight. Also, I will try and read that, but sadly, reading is something that is actually really hard beyond the kind of like the mandatory reading I have to do for this channel, because there's so much that we have to do in a day. It's usually pretty crazy. Like today alone, I had to do a good bit beyond just talking to some folks that I know and hanging out with them for just a little bit. Then I had to come right back home. I had to take care of some paperwork. I answered a lot of y'all on Patreon. Not only that, then we had to go look at a whole bunch of business stuff and deal with business side of things for the channel in the background. And then finally, after all of that, I then got a moment to talk about business things, and then we finally started to get to work on the stream around 5:30 or 6 or so local time, and now it's 11:15. So it's a good bit of work that goes on this channel every day, and so it makes it really hard to do a lot of voluntary reading. And not only that, usually when we get free time, the free time isn't free. It's us having to use that time for something else. And it makes getting around to, trying to read anything incredibly tough. And I haven't even been able to read some of the books that I've gotten for myself to learn more about the French army and things like that going on a little bit further into the war and what's going on around the world. And also to try and make a long-form documentary videos. Hell, to be honest, we're so busy, it's actually hard to get around to even thinking or trying to actually do a long-form documentary video because we simply just don't have the time. Like, we're literally that busy. And also, we're getting ready for the next merch drop right now. Matt, that's largely a Matthew thing. And he's really busy with trying to get all the background checking done on the companies that we're trying to work with for that, and the quality control tests and everything else. So there's a lot going on. Not to try and list out all his excuses not to read the book, but it probably will be a good bit before I can actually get around to trying to read the book. But still, thank you so much once again, Jason Carpenter, for the incredible support and helping this channel to keep on running. But I want to make sure, though, that while I will hopefully read that book in the future, I just want to let you know, Jason Carpenter, it might not be soon. I don't want to build your hopes up and then let them down because of the reality of how much goes on back here. But still, thank you so much once again for support, Jason, and helping this channel to keep on running. I hope I addressed that well. And of course, thank you for being an old guard and being a longtime member of the Lease Spring Army. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one is gonna go to, guess who? It's Vladimir Putin. Very interesting name. Once again, very interesting name. Something about the butt. But they put in a $50 donation, and thank you very much for that support. And they also caught my typo there by accident a minute ago. I tried to delete that, but they caught it. And they also said, I said, what Putin? And something about the butt.
I said, let Putin in my bed. Oh, no. I had to read it so that way people would get it. But still, thank you so much very much. Thank you so much very much for the support, Vladimir Putin. And thank you for helping this channel to keep on running. It's great to know even the Russians themselves, even Big Papa Russia, ends up supporting this channel because they even know how great the channel is. I got to thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running because you're helping the Lease Spring Army to keep on going and to keep the flag flying high. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. Thank you for being an absolute troll of the channel. We like it though. I think it's funny. And thank you once again for being a part of the Lease Spring Army. And with that, we are on to the next one. Thank you greatly once again.
Yes, indeed. And the next one is going to go to Michael, who puts in that $25 donation and says, "Slava Ukraine from Quebec."
From Quebec?
Quebec.
I thought you said Quebec. I was like, is he in Korea or Quebec? Where the hell is he?
Of course, Quebec.
Thank you so much for the support, Michael, for your first super chat in the history of the super chat. And thank you for saying Slava Ukraini from Quebec. We are greatly appreciative of our Quebecian friends across the seas who continue to support this channel. I can't do that anymore. That's going to really hurt my voice. But I got to think
it's going to grind your vocal cords down to the nub.
Man, it's like talking with rocks in your throat. But beyond that, thank you so much once again for support and being all the way from Quebec. We greatly appreciate our Quebecian viewers. We really do. Because most of y'all live right in between Quebec City and Montreal. Really, no one else lives anywhere else in Quebec. You're either here or you're there or you're nowhere. But still, thank you so much once again for support, Michael. Thank you for being from this area. And thank you once again for helping this channel to keep on being possible. And so with that, we are on to the next one. But thank you so much once again.
Indeed. And our next one is going to go to Char-G, who has been around on the channel for a very long time. And he put in a $25 donation. And thank you very much, Char-G, for that support. He said 2 In-N-Out Burger combos for the boys. Up $5 because we support higher wages for regular workers, he said. And question from the chat, LLT, LSA. And I'm telling you what, Char-G, I haven't had an In-N-Out Burger ever since I came back from Dallas. I've been craving that In-N-Out Burger. And then after I came back, I learned about the so-called animal-style burger. And I was like, damn, I didn't get that. And I'm nowhere close to an In-N-Out Burger to try it. But luckily, I might be getting the chance to be close to one once again, maybe in the future. I'm not sure. But if I pass by one again, I'm going to make a point to go by and get one of them combos because I like that stuff. It was good. But Enforcer, what say you?
And thank you so much, Shargy, for the support. Of course, I'll never get the chance. I'm anchored. I am like a rock. I sit in one place and I run this show. And by golly, I'm not moving. I'm not going wherever the hell anyone may be going because the internet might be bad and we might not be able to run this show. And I'm dedicated to running this show. But still, thank you so much for the support once again, Shargy, in helping this channel to keep on running. And I will, if I get the chance, send Matthew forward into the world so that he can grab me an In-N-Out animal burger and bring it back to me. Hopefully still warm, although that's highly unlikely. But still, thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to keep this channel possible. And so we will make sure to get a question from the chat. And long live the Lease Spring Army. And with that, what do we got, Matthew?
And this one goes to Gold. It says, how big would the polar ice cap have to be for commercial container submarines to outcompete traditional container ships.
Reread that one again, Matthew.
They said, how big would the polar ice cap have to be for commercial container submarines to outcompete traditional container ships?
Sadly, the submarine will never economically beat the container ship. They've tried. They actually have tried to see if that would be an economically viable option. It was actually smacked down in the development, or the design phase, before you even made it into development, because it would just be economically infeasible to do something like that at a cheap price. So sadly, the answer would be never, because they have tried that and failed. But one thing we can say is that the melting a little bit of the polar ice caps has actually ended up creating what they call the Northwest Passage. It exists. Finally. It's great. But ships have actually been able to pass around the Panama Canal in over North America to be able to make it into the United States. Pretty cool when you think about it, but you know, a little sad on the other side. But still, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And thank you once again for helping this channel to keep on running. If it wasn't for folks like you, with those interesting questions, we wouldn't be able to keep this channel running. But thank you once again, Shargy, for sponsoring that live chat and helping this channel to be possible. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And also, I saw Panama Floyd saying in the live chat, two cheers. He says, don't y'all have a Whataburger in Alabama now? Not In-N-Out, but not bad. Still don't have either in Atlanta. And we actually have several Whataburgers across the state in Alabama. And that's actually what we had for supper tonight. Was a nice Whataburger patty melt, which is actually quite good. And I enjoy Whataburger quite a bit. I was off of it for a while, but I'm back on it. But I think, personally, for just a normal burger and not a Whataburger, which is rather sizable, In-N-Out was actually better, in my opinion. I liked it more. But that's just me. But unfortunately, do you have a preference, even though you have never tried In-N-Out?
I'm a Whataburger fellow. I'm a Whataburger till I die. And someone said Greenland is pretty huge in the live chat, Matthew, so I had to make sure to check. And it is pretty freaking big. I mean, it's like the Midwest up there.
Good Lord.
Good moly. It's Greenland. Man, but I wondered. Yoink. That just steals Denmark.
That's small.
Man, look how big Denmark is, man.
I don't want to hear it from Denmark again. Being this small of a country, I don't want to hear it.
Man, look at that. Let's see here. Copenhagen, which I believe is right here, was about the size of Montgomery, Alabama. So it's actually not that big of a city.
That little piece off there off the right could actually fit over Columbus. Like, put it over there, like near Fort Benning.
Oh, my Lord.
No, that little piece to the right. That little bit. Look at that. Fort Benning.
Strip club. It's not like that. I mean, it's pretty rough out there in Columbus. But let's see. How big is Birmingham, Alabama? Oh, actually, it would be. Yeah, Birmingham, Alabama is about as big as Copenhagen, actually. So that's actually fairly big. You know, that's not that's small of an island, but that's still kind of crazy to think about, though. Like, you know, a 40-minute drive could get you across this one island, or that 40-minute drive may end up making you well, you know, listen, Matthew, what the hell am I talking about? This isn't a pissing contest. What am I kidding? But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to John B. Rimple, another channel legend, and he puts in a 20. And thank you very much, John, for your support. He says, keep with the good work, gentlemen, and take a question from the chat, please.
Thank you so much, John B. Rimple, for the support and helping this channel to keep on running and helping it to be possible. It is folks like you, John, who helped to make this thing a reality. And I gotta thank you so much for enjoying the work, because you're helping to support our work and keeping it great. And so with that, we will make sure to take a question from the live chat. Matthew, what kind of question do we have from the live chat?
In this time from the live chat, we've got one from Little Bear. Not the Big Bear, this is the Little Bear. They said, are Ukraine using thermobaric charges on their drones now with the amount of explosive force?
Yes, in some instances, we have seen thermobaric charges being used. So the answer is yes. And so with that, I hope that does address that live chat fairly well. Thank you so much once again, John B. Rimple, for the incredible support and helping this channel to be possible. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one is going to go to, let's see here, it's going to go to Panama Floyd, who puts in a $20 donation, and he did not leave a comment on this one, I don't think. Let me go back and double check real quick. Let's see. He actually did. He left a comment.
Hey!
He said, can Iran actually concentrate on a foreign attack while concentrating on unrest at home. He said, my Uber driver the other day was a Persian refugee girl. Said her grandma was still over there and participated in the headscarf riots.
Interesting. That's actually really cool. In case y'all didn't know, there was actually some riots that happened in Iran called the headscarf riots a couple of years ago that happened because an Iranian woman was beat to death on the streets, but she was not wearing her headscarf. This ended up creating a large wave of riots across Iran where multiple women refused to wear their headscarves or protested openly about it. It ended up leading to some pretty violent altercations. A decent amount of women ended up being beat because they were not wearing their headscarves. I believe some further ones ended up getting seriously injured because of the beatings. So it was a pretty serious ordeal back in the day when that happened. But beyond that, Iran could probably try and focus on a foreign war because, once again, they did fight the Iran-Iraq war for nearly 10 years before they actually pieced out of that one. So it is possible that they could try and fight a war. It's just that the government is currently very unstable and very unpopular with the public, unlike when it was originally brought into power and then it went into the Iran-Iraq war right after that. So there is the possibility that it would be pretty tough for them to fight both, and it may lead to their collapse if they tried, because they're actually wildly unpopular even inside of Iran currently from what we know. But with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you so much once again for a very good question, Pamela Floyd, a very interesting one. I hope that shares with everyone who may not know what the headscarf riots were, a little bit about Iranian modern history, or at least modern history where there's been opposition or pull against the Iranian central government. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. Thank you so much once again for support, Pamela Floyd. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to none other than Margaret Hemsley, another channel legend who puts in a 15 this time. And it's good to see you once again, Margaret. And she says, out with the granddaughter, showing her our wildlife, including those quokkas. And I've been missing the live streams, but sorry, boys, my granddaughter is precious and only here for 5 days. That's all good, Margaret. I understand. And she said, take a question, please.
And I completely understand, Margaret Hemsley. There is no reason to apologize about that at all. You got to make time for your family when you can, and there's nothing more important than family. If I could say anything off of that statement, if everyone has family to tend to, I would much rather have you all not watching this channel and tending to your family, your relatives, your grandchildren, your own children, your cousins, nephews. I'd rather have y'all dealing with them and having a fun time with them than watching this channel if you had to pick in between the two. And I completely
call your family.
Call your family. But beyond that, I completely understand that, Margaret Hemsley. And I hope that y'all been having an incredibly fun time out there in West Australia near Perth, getting to show off all the quokkas and all the other precious animals that live within that area of Australia. I bet you it's been incredibly fun. I wouldn't know myself because you're the one over there, but I bet you it's been incredibly fun. And still, thank you so much once again for being here with us tonight. I hope y'all have been out there enjoying y'all's time together, and I hope that you've been enjoying your time here on this channel tonight, Margaret. And so with that, thank you so much once again, and we will make sure to take a live chat question. And so, what do we got, Matthew?
And this one is a simple one. It goes to Nashoba and says, can we buy Ukraine 7 Patriot systems?
Yes, we could, but it would require the passing of a spending bill, which is a very complicated matter in and of itself at the moment. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and thank you so much once again, Margaret Hemsley, for sponsoring that live chat. And also, Maddie, do you see that bot right there? Steve Ike said, "You're a clown." Oh man,
me? Steve called me a clown?
Who,
me? Am I seeing this? Let me wipe my eyeballs. Oh, let me see. Let's see what he says. He's coming back. He's typing furiously. He's a keyboard warrior.
Man, we're waiting.
Let's see what he's got to say. Oh, he's getting ready. He's firing it up.
Oh man, if they
he's
go
firing it up.
If they go,
he said, "Yes, you are a clown."
Oh no!
Well, guess what, Steve?
No, wait, don't ban him yet. Don't ban him. Wait, hang on. I gotta.
Oh, too late.
Oh, dang it! Oh, just wait. I was about to say. I thought it was your mom that was wearing all the makeup, not me. But anyways. Steve, what you doing with that? Oh wait, I can't go there. I was about to go really bad. Strike. But also one more thing, Steve. I just gotta ask. Aren't you the one who can do like the trick with the balloons? Like, if I remember correctly, I feel like he is the one, Matthew. That we saw a while ago.
Could be. He could be, but you know what got him going? He said, Iran is not clowns. I said, dude, Iran is 100% clowns. Like, there's no like discussion about that. He said, "You're a clown." I said, "Is that right?" I said, "You don't say." He said, "Yes, you're a clown." Then he got banned. He's like, "Oh, damn, that didn't work."
He's like, "I really got them shake." Dude, the way those people work, though, is that they sit there and they'll get banned and we're completely unfazed, but then they'll say something like, "I got them shaking in their boots. Oh, man, I really got them going. They had to ban me because I was too strong. I was exposing the truth." It's like, no, really, you're just annoying, so we got you out of here. But, hey, I mean, you can look at it any way you want. But nothing is going to stop you from knowing that your mom's a hoe. But anyways.
Oh! That's like that school teacher in school that was like, "Don't make me say it. Don't make me say it." And then those kids
that paper, your mom's a hoe. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Man, I can understand, like, at some point, like, you deal with so much crap after a while, and you're like, why would a teacher say that to a student? It's like, let me tell you something. I know why he said it. Because after a while, you get so sick and fed up of the crap, you're like, man, I'm letting loose. And that teacher said, "I'm letting loose." He said, "Your mom's a hoe." But anyways, getting on from all this craziness and silliness and all that, we're moving on to our next super chat. And this one goes to Lord Lathos, who puts in a $15 donation and says, "I am confused. Are we admitting that the Russian sanctions absolutely failed? And how else could Russia affect the market? And help me out here."
And I will help you out, Lord Lathos. Great question, by the way. The sanctions aren't. Let me think. Let me how to phrase this. So the thing is with oil, well, really refined fuel products like gas. We're just going to call it gas. The thing with gas around the world is that while the sanctions stop us, here's the thing with the sanctions. It stops us from buying Russian oil and Russian gas. Specifically for the Germans, it stopped them from buying Russian gas, and they were one of their largest customers in Europe. But it doesn't stop the Russians from buying gas from other countries that aren't really a part of that sanctions group, like NATO, like Kazakhstan. And those countries end up shipping their gas down to the ports further south, like in Pakistan or other areas of the world, or just to neighbors nearby at a certain price. And when they start buying more of that, that means that other countries that would have bought that gas have to buy more from other places. And then overall, because the demand is up and the supply is fairly constant at this point, the price rises. And because of that, that means that now we are having to pay increased prices for gas, although we do have massive sanctions on, because the sanctions don't stop the Russians from buying gas from countries that'll sell it to them. It just stops us from buying their gas and oil. That's what the sanctions are. So if they buy something from someone and then the price goes up because of that, that doesn't mean the sanctions have failed. That just means that they're doing something they can do, because not every country in the world is sanctioning Russia. Kazakhstan and really all of East Asia being those countries, except for South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, the Philippines, and Australia, and I believe Indonesia as well, and Vietnam, maybe. But beyond that, that is why the prices are rising. It's not that the sanctions failed at all. The sanctions that we have in place are still working fine, but sanctions only go one way. It goes towards us buying their stuff. That's what a sanction is. Like, for example, a sanction on North Korea getting oil, that's not something that we are able to say, North Korea, you cannot buy oil. And then the North Koreans go, "Oh, okay," and then they don't buy oil. That means we're not selling them oil. All of our friends in our friend group aren't selling them oil. And if they are able to buy oil from anyone, it's someone that's not in our friend group that isn't sanctioning them. It just stops us from selling stuff or buying stuff from them. It doesn't stop them from buying it from other people and other groups. So with that, I hope that does address that well, Lord Lathos. Great question, though. That's actually an incredible one. And I thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running and having been here for an incredibly long time. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, by the way, I just saw this. We're up to 2,500 likes, by the way. If you're still watching the stream, which it looks like 4,100 of you are, destroy the like button, smash it, and please, let's see the likes go through the roof. But thank you all for hitting the like, by the way. And moving on to our next Super Chat question, we have one from Uncovered Cube, who puts in an $11 donation and says, LSA.
And LSA! And thank you so much for the support, helping this channel to keep on running, and of course, long live the Lease Spring Army. The Lease Spring Army will never die. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Siri, who puts in a $10 donation and says, keep up the great work, Enforcer Brothers. And ever heard of Tristan de Cunha? Seems like a fascinating place. Positive vibes to LSA and EXO from Oslo.
And hello to Oslo. Precious, precious Oslo. Love to see it. And also, let's see here. Where the... Matthew, I was looking around. Who sent in that super chat again? I want to make sure that I can read it.
Siri.
Siri? It's not in the spreadsheet.
Oh. Hold on.
What?
On the spreadsheet.
Yeah, it's not in my spreadsheet on the YouTubes. But I do thank you for the support, Siri. And I have not heard of that place. But maybe we will.
I see it. It's right here.
Where?
It's right in the middle. It's between Jason Carpenter and Michaels.
Jason Carpenter? Well, oh my goodness, Matthew. I was looking around. I think we may have missed one, perhaps. But we'll go back and check. But beyond that, thank you so much once again for the support, Siri, and helping this channel to keep on running. It is folks like you who help to make this thing possible. And you know what? We are actually going to look at this place. Tristan in St. Helena. Wait, isn't this where... I think this is actually where Napoleon was left to die, if I remember correctly. Who is it? Edinburgh of the Seven Seas. Thatched House Museum. Prince Philip Hall. This seems like a place that Napoleon may have been left to die. But beyond that, we must look at the place. Do they have street view in this town? Pity. They do not at all. Let's look at the pictures. My goodness, that is from...
That's like taken with an old VHS.
It says that there's 394 photos, but it only allows me to see the one. But beyond that, I do thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And it does seem like such a fascinating place. No, wait a minute, it is not St. Helena. Where the hell? Inaccessible Island. I like that name. Very, very
Inaccessible Island. I think that's what you just call Epstein's place too.
Oh, heavens! Oh, great heavens! But anyways, thank you so much once again for the support, Siri, and thank you for having this channel to keep on running. And I hope we were able to address that quite well indeed. But before we move on to the next one, Matthew, I just want to double check that we did address Patrick Forney's super chat, did we?
Let's see here. Let's see, Patrick Forney. Let's see here. Patrick Forney. He's coming up. He's coming up, Governor. You're jumping ahead.
Oh, well, for me, he's in orange. So I was thinking, oh, we must have missed him. But anyways, still, thank you for the support, Siri. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Duncan VR, another channel legend, who puts in a 12 and says, Abba Muba, new LSA anthem, Baba Mumu. I want my hot dog, meow. Give me hot dogs and more hot dogs. Please. Oh, man, I'm telling you. The marmot fly is a hot dog, man. Baba. Oink. The marmot tail is ready quack squat. Oh, man, I'm telling you. Oh, my, baba.
Thank you so much for the support, Duncan VR, and helping this channel to keep on running. Thank you for the support, and thank you so much for throwing in your typical animal noises. As far as the LSA anthem goes, though, in all seriousness, we're actually working on one, but I haven't really been able to get one I'm happy with yet. So we're still working on it, tweaking it a little bit, and hopefully we'll have one soon that actually will be good enough to be an anthem. Because right now it's like in between a mix of like a solemn choir and then like a country song, and I'm not really liking either of them. But still, we will hopefully have one soon, and thank you so much once again for support, Duncan VR, and making this channel possible. But still, with that, I hope that does address it well. Thank you so much once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, a huge shout out to DST is Artificial. And Daylight Savings Time is artificial. It is indeed. And they put in a $10 donation. And thank you very much for that support. And we would read off this thing right here, but we don't want to give any undue shout-outs or credit to anyone that may not deserve it. And I'm afraid this fellow here, he's on the list. He's at the very top of the undeserving list. And we shan't name this fellow. But thank you very much for the support. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I thank you so much for the support. And while we won't name him, that was so funny, because we got told about that, actually after the stream yesterday. We didn't even know that it existed until afterwards. And I gotta say this, DSTI Artificial, we are, like, the title says warned, but that's just raw clickbait, because I never got told nothing. We didn't even know about this supposed warning or whatever, that we're always getting. Like, what are we warned about? We're warned that that he's going to kill us, warned that our house is on fire. I mean, what in the world are we being warned about? I have no idea. But, it's really actually what the honest truth is, DSTI Artificial, and this is what everyone's realized at this point, and that's why we're not even really wanting to talk about it much, is that the sad degenerate loser has decided that the only way he can get traction, and this actually is true, the only way he can get traction is by trying to attack other pro-Ukraine YouTubers, no matter who they are. So right now he's got a rotation of us, another guy, and then another guy on top of that, 2 other folks. And so he kind of rotates in between us. So yesterday was our day, today was another guy's day, and then the day after tomorrow will probably be the other guy's day, and then he'll come back around to us. But the guy is a pathetic, sad loser, and everyone's kind of realized that if you just don't even talk to the guy or even recognize his existence at all, he generally doesn't get anywhere, so he moves on to the next person a little bit quicker. Is it sad that someone like that is in the Ukraine world on YouTube? Yes. Is it sad that there are people like that in general? Absolutely. Should people like that really have a YouTube channel? Most likely not. Should people like that seek mental help? Certainly. Should people like that probably stop doing drugs? Certainly, 100% as well. Should they also try and figure out why everyone hates them? Most likely so. But with that, I hope that does address that, and also address a whole bunch of questions that folks may have. But still, thank you so much once again for support, DSTI Artificial. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Point of Guinness, who puts in a $10 donation. It says, "You was talking about politics in yesterday's stream, breaking your own rules," he said. "So I think you need a politics jar. And every time you talk about politics, you both had to put the $5 in the jar."
Huh, interesting concept. I don't think we talked about politics yesterday.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. And usually we keep it within the rules, because there are rules about our no politics thing. It has some subsections. As long as the politics are before 1960, we can talk about them because it's not modern enough to be relevant. And then also, we can talk about politics as long as we address both sides equally and don't show bias towards one or the other. So we really have to either praise both sides equally, which I don't think I've ever done, or we have to condemn both sides equally, which I do whenever I actually bring that up. So with that, I hope that does address that well, but I don't think we brought it up yesterday, Point of Guinness. But still, I will put that into consideration. I do thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Rick Clay, who puts in a 10 once again. He says, "Russia only has a workforce of 7.2 million, and Russia's population is made up of more women than men, and it does not have new births to make up for the death and retirement of the workers."
And that is fairly true. I believe the workforce, let me check this. Russian workforce size. That would be an incredibly small workforce, like it's 75 million. So it looks like the number is just a little off. But beyond that, 75 million is, I believe, actually, it's decreasing, according to the statistics. It's actually decreasing a decent amount per year. So they're dealing with already a shortage of workers. It's a decreasing base of workers. And of course, because of the birth deficits, the Russian population is actually in decline. And let me show you all this, because this is something you will never see in history, probably again, after this era, is this kind of a drop right here in millions. I mean, they kind of had a little bit of a resurgence here through the late 2010s, but it's going to start dropping off again, and it's expected to drop off fairly quickly. But with that, also really interesting, they actually have population stats for Ukraine, and after the invasion of Ukraine, the population in Ukraine dropped by about 6 million people, probably people fleeing the country to places like Poland and other parts of the world. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. Thank you so much once again for support, Rick Clay. And a very interesting point. It certainly is very true, especially for a lot of Eastern European countries that were a part of the former Soviet Union, including Ukraine as well. But with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that the best I can. And we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Barry Woodward, who puts in a 10. He says, "Slava LSA, blood of the live stream, pull your socks, unlike button."
Oh, but still, thank you for the support, Barry Woodward. And also, I love to see that you have a profile picture of the LSA flag. Beautiful. Absolutely love to see it. And I got to thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel be possible, because folks like you help this thing to keep on running. And of course, long live the Lease Spring Army. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one is going to go to AMX10 Speedy Bang Bang, who puts in a 10 and says, Monday stream. If Iran attacks before Monday, ? And dear LSA, I can't join you today, but I have a live chat question. Please send it.
And we will send it. And also, to answer your other question, we will run a stream. Well, actually, I don't know, because we actually have some things that we have to tend to on Monday behind the scenes. So it might not be possible to make even a short war video this upcoming Monday. But we will see if it's possible. If something does happen on Monday, like Iran attacks, we will probably run a live stream, because it'll be such breaking news. It will certainly be worth the time, effort, and work to be able to cover that. But still,
and we might just have to live stream on the phone or something. Like pull out the phone, turn on the YouTube live stream with the camera on the phone, and like have you over there on the Twitter or me on the Twitter or something like that, and start covering it on the field.
Man, maybe so. I mean,
that'd be crazy.
That'd be crazy, man. Maybe we could fly over there. You know, maybe we could fly it in. But still, with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Patrick Forney, who puts in a $10 donation. And he says, I just want to say thank you for what y'all do.
And thank you so much for the support all the way from Switzerland. I thank you so much, Patrick Forney, once again, for helping this channel to keep on running and helping it to be possible all the way from the beautiful little country of Switzerland in the middle of Europe. Absolutely incredible, and I gotta thank you so much once again for being up at an incredibly early time in the morning, and not only that, enjoying this stream and really enjoying enough to actually support it and help it to be possible. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, big shout out to Jesus Cabrera for putting in a $10 donation, and I don't see any comment left with it. And let me double check that, because I just want to make sure, because the chats were flowing tonight, and I might have missed it. So let me go look. Let's see. Hey, Jesus Cabrera. Hey, Jesus.
No, he has no comment.
Cabrera. He has no comment. And thank you very much, Jesus, for that support and helping to keep the channel running. And that support does mean a lot. So thank you very much for that. And with that, we're moving on to our next super chat. This one goes to John Person, who is back once again, who puts in a 5 and says, thanks so much for the dedicated coverage.
And we're more than happy to do it, John. I cannot say enough how much this is really my dream job. I absolutely love doing it, and I couldn't imagine myself being anywhere else, doing anything else for really the rest of my life. I'm very happy doing this, and I thank you so much for enjoying my dedication and pure enjoyment of being able to do something that I always dreamed of doing, but never thought would actually become a reality. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one is going to go to Scribe, who puts in a 5. And says, well, wish me luck, y'all. It's my 25th B-Day, and Mother Nature has sent me a nighttime tornadic weather my way. Oh, dear. Be safe over there, please. They said $5 to help Ukraine.
And I thank you so much for the support, Scribe, and I hope that the tornado weather passes over. And also, happy 25th birthday to you. That's incredible to hear, and I hope that you have many more ahead of you. And also, I hope that everything's fine with the tornado situation, because that can always be scary, but hopefully it passed over, or hopefully it was a very light one. But beyond that, I also want to let you know, Scribe, that Super Chats do not go towards supporting Ukraine. They go towards supporting the channel. Super Chats 100% support the channel and help us keep this thing running. But if you want to support Ukraine through this channel, you can support it by coming to our Sunday night fundraisers, which happen every single Sunday, where we fundraise for Ukraine. Considering that you may have not known that, I am going to take that $5 super chat, though, and add that to my $100 that I'll be putting into the nonprofit this Sunday, and so it'll be a $105 donation instead of a $100 donation. But I still thank you so much once again for the support and helping this thing to be possible. And I also have to say really quickly, we can't make that a norm, taking super chats and adding them in as donations on Sunday, because YouTube takes 30% of every single super chat. So if you throw in a 10, we actually get $7 out of that. And if you throw in 100, we only get 70 out of that instead of 100. YouTube takes $30 of that. So we will be taking a loss. So that's why we always dissuade people from throwing in, like a $500 super chat and saying, hey, throw this in on the Sunday night fundraiser, because in reality, we only have, after YouTube takes their bid out of it, maybe $300 something to give, not the full 500, because YouTube eats 30% of it. But still, thank you so much for the support, Scribe. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next super chat is going to go to Butchie777, who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Butchie. And they said, two group, love you guys. And likewise, Butchie, and thank you very much for that support.
And we love you too, Butchie777 and two group. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running and helping it to be possible all the way from the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that did address that as best as I possibly could. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one is going to go to Carrie Ann LSA, who puts in a 5 and says, "Hey guys, and can you tell the story of the LSA rocket at the beginning for all the new followers in LSA for Life?"
Yes, the LSA Rocketa. So the story is that way back in the day, we ended up being reached out by Sign My Rocket, a representative of Sign My Rocket. They said, "Hey, we watched the show. We absolutely love the show. It's incredible. We were wanting to do something to thank y'all for running your channel. So, if you would like, we could write your own custom message on a shell, and we could fire it out of an M777. And I said, "That is freaking sick. Of course we'll accept that." So, I told them to put on the shell, "The Lee Spring Army sends its regards." And then I also told them that was the message I wanted to say when the shell was fired. And that's where that clip comes from. It was the first of its kind on YouTube, actually, when we did it. No other YouTube channel really existed at that time, even. And also no other channel had been approached to have that done. Because, you know, unlike other channels, because nowadays it's actually a fairly big norm for a channel to have had a tribute to it on the front lines. But the thing is that usually channels are paying for that. We didn't have to pay for ours. It was because Sign My Rocket was watching our channel and liked it enough that they wanted to do it for free for the entire community and for the channel at large. But other people have actually started to copycat that over time and have ended up paying money to have stuff written on shells or to have one shot. So that is a little bit of the background there, and you know, that's also something that I find a little funny, is that there's been a lot of people who've actually imitated what we do over time. In the end, there's really nothing we can do, and who cares? They usually do worse than we do doing what we do. But there's actually been a lot of people who have copied us with what we do. Like at the beginning of the war, many of y'all would have noticed that a lot of YouTube channels tried to do a little bit of that lighthearted style that we do on this channel when we report the news. And then a lot of them eventually stopped doing it because they weren't that good at it, and then they started attacking us because we could. And I was like, what? Like, it can't help that y'all aren't good at it. Why in the world you got to attack us for doing that? Y'all were copying us for a while. We've had people copy our intro cards, the thumbnails, and everything. But the one that was the most shocking to me was imitating the artillery shell at the beginning of our video, because it's not like we were trying to do that. It's just something that Sign My Rocket approached us on and was like, "Hey, would you want that to happen?" We were like, "Sure." And then right after that, like I'm not even kidding, like 5 days later, Hot Dog Man had like paid several $100s to someone for them to just write something on a shell and take a picture with it, not even fire it. And I was like, why in the world are people like so obsessed with copying us? I was like, you know, like it was just a thing. It's like, it's not like we're trying to like one up everyone and get in a pissing contest. Literally, it was just something that happened. We thought it was cool. But anyways, with that, thank you for the support, Carrie Ann, and thank you for your 20th super chat to the channel ever. That's impressive to see. That is the 20th super chat, and I thank you so much once again for supporting this channel and helping us to keep it running, because if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next super chat is going to go to CK Bold, who puts in the 5 and orders the regular live chat question. And thank you very much, CK Bold, for that support. And the live chat question this time is going to go to it's going to go to the Torque Music, who says, "What do you think about Denmark sending F-16s? And is it a good idea or a bad idea? And could it make a difference for Ukraine, or is it just not good enough?"
I think sending F-16s to Ukraine is an amazing idea. It will have a difference. It's just not going to be a war-changing difference, but it certainly will be beneficial for Ukraine as far as the actual war on the front lines is going. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you so much once again for the support, CK Bold, and sponsoring that live chat. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have a 5 from Steve Alexander, who says, "I laughed so hard at that reporter. I gave myself an asthma attack. Oh dear." He said, "But you know, the nurses could have saved him if they weren't yeeted out the back."
And I gotta say, thank you so much, Steve Alexander, for being one of our South Korean viewers. Incredibly cool. Actually, incredibly rare, actually, to have a South Korean represented on stream, because we actually have a very small amount of South Korean viewers. But really cool to know that you're one of them. But also, Thank you so much for getting a laugh out of that. I was legitimately actually about to start coughing up a lung over here, like 9mm, blowing the lung out of the body.
Whole lung?
Yeah.
Oh, Jack, the 9mm blows lung straight out of the body, Jack. Oh, whoa.
The 12 gauge gives it a gentle love tap, but the 9mm blows it out of the lung. Might have put me on that. Anyways, I do thank you so much for enjoying that segment. I had an absolute kick covering that video. It was hilarious. It was funny from beginning to end. It was a literal clown show. But you know, and the nurse probably could have saved him if they literally weren't yanked out of the back of the van like it was a horror movie. They went, they were like yanked out. It's like a Wilhelm scream, but still. Thank you for the support, and thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep on running, and thank you for being one of our South Korean viewers. Absolutely incredible. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to AMX10 Speedy Bang Bang. Once more, he puts in a 5. And says, are oil refinery workers civilians and therefore not a military target? And this was mentioned as a possibility in the Armed Services House Committee.
And great question, AMX10 Speedy Bang Bang. Technically, they're considered collateral because the factory that they're working in is considered a vital military target, and the goal isn't to kill the workers, but if they end up getting killed, they usually get signed off as collateral, as the actual intent was to hit war industry. At least that's the way things used to go. Nowadays, the rules of war are a lot more restrictive, and usually the killing of civilians, even the ones working inside of a industry supporting the war effort for the Russians, would be somewhat frowned upon. So I would say that given the usual norm throughout history, they'd probably be viewed as collateral, but in the current times, they would probably be considered a no-go target, something that a group of people that could not be injured or killed, and if they were, it would be generally frowned upon by the international community. But with that, I hope that does address that well, and thank you for an interesting question, AMX10 Speedy Bang Bang. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one is going to go to none other than Fly Eagles Fly, and it's good to see once again Fly Eagles Fly. He puts in a 20. And says, I'm still watching during the day, and it's good to catch the tail end of a live show. And love you guys. And Fly Eagles Fly, it is good to see you once again. I'm telling you what, it's been a good minute, and it's good to see you. And I hope you're doing well. But Enforcer, what say you?
I hope you're doing well too, Fly Eagles Fly. We've been wondering where you went. We're always wondering where people go when they disappear off the live stream. And we thought that you had just disappeared. It's been like months. It's crazy. Welcome back. And I hope you've been doing good. And I thank you so much for watching during the day. That's incredible to hear. And I'm glad to know that we had you the entire time. We just never saw you. And good for you to be here. We are so happy to have you here tonight. And thank you so much for being here during a live stream. And thank you so much once again for the support. And I hope that your favorite football team is doing well too. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
And this one is going to go to Bruce Lee, who puts in a 5. It says, 5 for the Take 5 Fund, LSA, and live chat question. And we shall grab one, Bruce. And thank you very much for the 5 for 5 Fund. And this live chat question, sponsored by him, is going to go to Arthur, who says, we keep hearing, okay, today they'll attack. But do you think it's all a bluff for a surprise attack in reference to Iran attacking Israel?
Possibly. That's what we were starting to entertain tonight when we were talking about it a little bit earlier on in the news segment. They may be trying to lower the guard of the Israelis specifically, or they may legitimately be backing off because they're afraid of a U.S. retaliatory response. We're not entirely sure, but there is a good chance that this is some kind of a fake, well, more of a feint, I guess is the best way to say it. That's probably the best word to use. It's probably more of a feint than an actual backing out. But with that, I hope that does address that live chat well. And thank you so much once again, Bruce Lee, for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one is going to go to Yevon Grubyak, who puts in that $4 donation. He says, please answer my question. Super chat wonky for me. And I did see the problems you were having with the super chat. I'm glad you figured it out, by the way, because you're not the only one. Several other people have problems with it as well. It's a problem with mobile super chats for some reason on mobile phones. But he said, we are LSA, and the flag is lit, by the way.
And thank you so much once again for saying we are LSA. And thank you for saying the flag is lit. I'm happy to hear that. Now, I hope that if you have a flag, and I'm thinking you may, that you're really enjoying it and that you really like it. It's a beautiful flag. It's pretty high quality. We're having to start working again on flag signing. It's not over, by the way. Some of y'all may have thought it was actually over. No, it's not. We actually have to start filling out international orders now because the test packages went through, and I believe all of them made it through. So now we're going to be shipping out all of the international orders, and now those will be getting out to the rest of the world, meaning that the Lease Spring Army's flags will literally be flying across the entire world, every corner of the globe, which is going to be really cool. But still, with that, I hope that does address that well. And also, Matthew, did they throw in their live chat comment?
And that was it, the We Are LSA part.
Oh, but with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
And our next one is going to go to, let's see how, it's going to go to 42 Zuter, who puts in a 2, as well as Richard K, who also puts in a 2 as well. And thank y'all both very much for that support and helping to keep the channel running. And we also have a 2 from Thomas Ray, who says USS Gerald R. Ford in Norfolk, USS Bataan took over.
And you're right, Thomas Ray. I don't know why the hell I thought the Gerald R. Ford was still out. Sorry about that. That is a correction. The Bataan is out there now. But still, thank you so much once again for correcting that, Thomas Ray. As soon as Matthew read that, I was like, I'm an idiot. The Gerald R. Ford isn't there anymore. But still, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
And we are officially out of Super Chat questions. But once again, huge shout out to everyone that supported the channel tonight and helping to keep the entire news operation running. Because, of course, like we always say, it is y'all, the viewers, just like PBS, that keep this whole thing going. And we appreciate it very much. And with that, we're now moving on to the many very good live chat questions. But up first, we have the Morse code decoders of the stream. And tonight, it was Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, Paul Schultz, Kevin J., Rumpelstiltskin, David Millsaps, and Toxic Bananas. They said the Morse code for tonight is Russia strikes Ukraine even harder because the war is less winnable, and long live the LSA.
And and that's the sound of money. Y'all hit that dead on the nail. That was the jackpot, and congratulations to you for getting that right. That is absolutely impressive, and I will have to say, it's impressive to see that y'all got that correct on the 778th day of the war. I'm honestly running out of things to say to y'all, because like I've been saying thanks for getting the Morse code right for like at least 700 days now, so I've really run out of stuff. But still, it is impressive, and I thank y'all greatly for that, and it is a really cool skill that y'all have. And so with that, it is time for us to get into them live chats proper. I see that we still have to answer Yevhen Grubyak's question, and so we'll make sure to prioritize that as soon as it comes in. But with that, Matthew, take it away.
All right, and also I see Panama Floyd in the live chat. He said, I forgot to tell y'all, I got my flag. I love the sticker too. I'm glad to hear y'all all like the stickers, by the way.
Matthew, you said the goodie. Matthew, you said the goodie.
Huh?
Oh, you said the goodie.
Oh, no, man, you're getting mixed up. He said, I thought about putting it on one of the cars, but I have independent suspensions, and maybe I should go buy an old pickup. And Panama, you know, Walmart sells excellent stickers. I'm telling you what. I'm glad you love the sticker you got from Walmart. I don't think that came with your flag at all. He says, I forgot to tell you about my flag. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to play that off. I think I just told everybody.
Yeah,
so the 3,600 people that are here, they know now what they're getting. So now they can get extra excited that it's going to get there in their package as well. Panama, I'm glad to hear that you love the sticker as well, because we put a lot of thought into making that sticker outdoorsy and also good for cars and everywhere else as well, so it can withstand the elements. So it should last. But I'm glad to hear it. But Enforcer, what say you?
Well, I gotta say, it's great to hear you got the flag, and yes, a little goodie. Was a sticker. It was a little sticker of the LSA. You could put it on anything, like a computer, a car, suitcase, you know, anything. You could literally put that sticker on anything. We made it to where it could be, and it was an incredibly nice sticker. And they actually ended up, like, some people may think, oh, that's it, it was a sticker, that was the extra thing. Y'all would not believe how much it actually costs to put those stickers in those poly mailers. It was actually incredibly expensive to get those extra stickers, because it wasn't a part of the actual buying price. We just ate the cost on those to make sure that everyone had a cool little goodie to throw in and something extra out of it, rather than just a flag. But that is the extra little goodie that we've been keeping secret for so long. It's actually a small LSA sticker that you can put on anything, because the adhesive is strong enough. But still, I hope that does address that fairly well. But still, I'm happy to hear that you were able to get that flag, Panama Floyd, and I hope that it's been flying high, or it's stored in a nice place. Because I've seen some people flying the flags. I've seen some people putting them inside their house and keeping them safe. Y'all don't really do whatever you want. Those are going to be the only ones that are autographed. So if the autograph eventually wears off, it will be a loss because there's not going to be a lot more autograph flags ever beyond those this set that's coming out right now. So if you want to keep it safe and keep it dry until a actual unsigned version comes out, might be a good idea, you know, in case of the channel continues to grow and those become really special and unique. Or you can fly them, because one thing we did find out is that golden Sharpie that I used has such a strong ink to it that it's probably not washing off even after months of being outside, probably. So y'all should be fine to fly them. But if you want to preserve the autograph as best you can, it'd probably be best to keep them inside or something along those lines. But still, I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you so much once again for bringing that up, Panama Floyd. And thank you, Matthew, for having that little slip up. But with that, we're on to the next one.
The only people who don't know yet are the international orders, I'm telling you, because I think most of our United States orders have been delivered. Some are still in transit, but they should all be out for delivery. And if they haven't arrived yet, they've either gotten mixed up in the post, and hopefully they arrive soon, or otherwise we'll have to deal with that. Or, you know, I don't know why else they'd be missing, to be honest with you, other than that, unless someone snatched them. But anyways, moving on here, we have one more super chat. This one came in from Barry Badarinoff, who put in a 2 and said, "Marmot fun for the LSA."
Hey! Alan, it's the Marmot, baby. Oh, hello there. Would you like a plum?
Hello there, Governor. Would you care for an extra plum?
Or would you like some rock?
Zoomed in like an office edit.
Man, it's just this weird zoom ins when no one's talking or anything. But still, it's the Marmot. Oh, we love the Marmot. We absolutely love the Marmot. And I thank you so much once again for the support, Barry, for supporting this channel and helping us keep this thing running. Folks like you helped make it possible. And I thank you greatly for supporting the Marmot Fund. We got to see it tonight, and oh man, I sent a warning, but I literally never even sent a warning. Like, what the hell? Oh man, the fence getting to my head. We're gonna get into that Fenny Wop. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Yevhen Grubrak once again. And Yevhen, I still haven't seen the live chat question, but he says, "How much for more stickers? Glory to the LSA, and how awesome would it be to have an LSA flag as an emoji, huh? It would look effing great. IMO, love y'all."
It would look great. It would be cool. But the problem, Yevhen, is that if we wanted special emojis in the channel, we have to activate memberships, and I think memberships are the most tacky thing ever. Like, I cannot tell y'all how much I hate memberships. I think they look terrible. I don't like them, and I honestly lose a lot of respect for YouTube channels that have memberships. If YouTubers out there, whoever they are offended by that statement, I'm sorry, but that is just how I feel. I lose a lot of respect for folks who do memberships. It stratifies live chats. It makes it where people are scared to say what they want or really be friends with each other. It makes it clicky, because people at different grades and different levels of memberships only talk to each other, and they act like they have power over someone else because they have the little symbol. I don't like it. I absolutely hate memberships, but I hate that we also can't have emojis because we don't have memberships. That's one thing I do hate. But that would be sick, Yevhen, if we did have an LSA flag emoji. That would be so cool. I really would agree with you right there. I think it would be great to have one, but sadly, we'd have to turn on memberships, and that is something I'm uncompromising on. Because I just don't like it. I hate the memberships, really. But still, I hope that does address that fairly well. And also, how much for more stickers? They are not for sale. They were an extra little goodie that was just thrown in with the flags. We might throw some in future orders, but probably not. There's probably going to be other different kinds of extra little goodies thrown in. And we're kind of planning on at least having some sort of a small goodie that gets thrown in with every single purchase that is a surprise that y'all will not know about until y'all get the packages. That's kind of...
Well, not all of them. Not all of them, but some of them.
But not all of them. But that's generally the plan, is to try and throw in a little extra goodie here and there. But the next drop, the next merch drop that we're doing here, which will be coming up in about 10 days, maybe 2 weeks, I can tell y'all that one's probably not going to have an extra goodie in it from what we know. So with that, I hope that does address it well. But still, we love you too, Yevhen Grubiak, and we love everyone in the Lease Spring Army. And so with that, thank you so much once again. And we are back to the live chats, and we're actually to the third to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Jeremy Burton, who says, "Do you have the video of the Russian guy fishing in his house in the flooded area?"
No, I wish we did. That sounds funny as hell. I would show that if we had it. I don't have that, sadly. So I hope that addresses that fairly well. I got so excited and now I'm getting bummed out, man, because I'm like, dang, we don't have that funny video. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we are on to the second to last question of the night.
All right, and this one goes to Melinda Grifford Vaughn, who says, what is your opinion on the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency confirming the Russian hack of sensitive information and emails via Microsoft? Oops. Oh dear, I hate to hear that. I really do. Hopefully all stuff is safe. But Enforcer, what say you?
I hate to hear that. You're freaking me out, man. You're freaking me out. But still, I hope that addresses that well, because I actually haven't heard about that until right now. That's news to me, but hopefully our stuff is safe. Also, I saw someone in the chat, James H, say, you can tell how young you are. Iran used to be our biggest ally over there. Israel just thinks America is a piggy bank and soldiers to die. Actually, no, I actually am very well versed in the history of the Middle East, part of being a history major and going to college for 4 years and really throwing away a lot of money to learn a lot of stuff. The reality is that Iran used to be our ally because it was a completely different country called Persia that was controlled by the Shah being installed by a government overthrow in 1954 that was largely supported by the US CIA, meaning that it was an extremely friendly government because we put it in charge of Iran. Once the Islamic Republic took control and overthrew the Shah, then they were not our ally because they were clearly anti-American. So I can see how unintelligent you are because you don't even know basic Middle Eastern history. I don't mean to be that rude, but that's just entirely true. Because if you know anything about the Middle East, you would know that the Iran that used to be our ally does not exist anymore and hasn't existed for at least 40 to 50 years. So it's a pretty stupid thing to act like they're our friends now when they literally chant death to America as a government slogan. So with that, I hope that does address our honorable mention for the final question of the night. But now it's time for us to move on to the final question of the night. And so, who is the lucky last person to throw in the lucky last question of the night?
All right, and that viewer is gonna be, let's see here, I'm picking through these last ones here. We just have a couple to pick from. This one's gonna go to Leonce Pierre, who says, it's easy to say that Iran is bluffing, but could it be a case of Iran realized that the U.S. was not going to back down, and it's causing Iran to rethink the strategy and attack later?
I think so, because they're incredibly scared of the United States. I cannot say that enough. They're probably scared of an Iranian response. Not an Iranian, sorry, an Israeli response, in all honesty, because the Israelis are going to pretty much have the abilities of the United States just on a far smaller scale. So going off of that, I think that's why they're backing off. They're probably going to try and approach this later or approach it through the proxy, so that way there may be a little bit of plausible deniability to sprinkle in there. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And also, huge shout out to Yevon Grubiak, who threw in a $2 super chat. It's the 5th super chat they've ever thrown in. And Yevon Grubiak said, one more for pronouncing my name perfectly, LSA, and then put in some plums. Oh, hello there, but still, thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, it's time for us to round out tonight's stream. I gotta thank you all so much once again for watching. It's been absolutely a complete joy and a pleasure to be able to run this stream and help us to keep this thing running. It's of course incredible. We were able to get, I believe, and let me check, 7.7 thousand people on live tonight, and 57,000 people have watched before the stream has ended. I cannot say this enough. We are so honored to have each and every single one of y'all here in the channel tonight. I don't look at y'all as just numbers. Of course, the YouTube analytics page only shows us the numbers in the control room. But I know that each and every single one of y'all are as unique and as special as the people that we see in the live chat every single night. We thank y'all all so much for being here, and I cannot thank y'all enough for being here with us as we cover the news. It's not y'all being here with us, it's really us being here with y'all, because we would be doing this each and every night. So we get to share the news with all of y'all every single day, and I thank y'all for choosing this as the place that y'all come to hear this news. If y'all really appreciated this stream and you're brand new, make sure to subscribe, because we run this stream 6 days a week. And if you subscribe and hit that bell button, you will literally hopefully, well, actually, it's not literally. You'll hopefully not miss a single stream. Hopefully, YouTube will notify you when they go live. Because it goes live every single day at the exact same time, except for Monday. Monday, we take off. But every other day, you can expect us to be here at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, like clockwork. You can also count on us to put out almost every day short war videos, which are 10 to 20 minutes long, which cover some of the major events of the war in Ukraine in a much more short, cut and dry form that a lot more people seem to really enjoy, at least in the numbers. But nevertheless, thank you all so much once again for watching, and we will see you all tomorrow for the next 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine and any news that's going on around the world. And so with that, good night, good luck, stay safe, take care, Slava Ukraini, and long live the Lease Spring Army. The Lease Spring Army will never die.
And good night, folks, and thank you all for yet another great stream. And also shout out to Bruce Lee, put in a 2 and said, has Iran found their balls yet? Not yet, but they might later. Who knows? But they no balls. But anyways, thank you all for another great stream. Slava Ukraine, Heroem Slava, and we'll see you all tomorrow on the Short War Summary and the nightly stream at 10 p.m. Eastern. And good night and get some rest.
Yes. The lease Spring Army sends its regards.
Русский военный корабль. Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.